In the 1970s, I damaged my body and became infertile after saving my childhood friend who fell through the ice. After returning to the city, he married me and promised to take care of me for the rest of my life. After we got married, I was assigned to feed the pigs because I couldn't do heavy labor. In front of the entire team, he yelled at me, "Stay away from me, you stink." I was tormented by their family for a full 20 years. On her deathbed, my mother-in-law pointed at my nose and cursed. "If it weren't for you insisting on saving my son, how could our family have married you, this barren hen? We've truly suffered 8 generations of bad luck." And my husband, Gao Deming, whom I saved at great risk back then, nodded in agreement. "If it weren't for your meddling, I would have married Qingqing by now. Her father is the factory director. I would have been the workshop manager by now. But it's all your fault, you useless piece of trash, for ruining my life." They berate me sentence by sentence, unaware that it was by Qingqing, the one they speak of, who schemed for him to fall into the ice hole back then. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day he fell into the ice hole. When I saw Gao Deming struggling in the water, I turned and ran. His intermittent cries for help echoed behind me, but instead of stopping, I quickened my pace. In my previous life, I had also witnessed this scene and, without thinking, jumped in to save him. As a result, half of my body was frozen stiff, leaving me with a chronic illness and rendering me unable to have children. Ironically, this life-saving favor only earned me disdain from their entire family, and I ended up dying from exhaustion. Since I've been given a second chance, I won't meddle in other people's business anymore. As soon as I reached the village entrance, I ran into Captain Zhang from the brigade. He grabbed me in a hurry. "Jiang Yulan, finally found you, quick. The commune's tractor brought in a batch of fertilizer, and we're short-handed. You're sharp, hurry over and keep the accounts for everyone." I immediately called out in response, "Got it, Captain Zhang, I'm coming right now." Perfect, I need a flawless alibi. I stayed at the brigade headquarters all afternoon until it was almost dark before returning to the youth camp. As soon as I walked in, someone urgently pulled me aside and asked, "Why did you just come back? Do you know Gao Deming got into trouble? He fell into an ice hole. By the time he was found, he was almost out of breath. He's just been sent to the commune health clinic." I lowered my head and whispered, "I was helping Captain Zhang with accounting at the brigade office all afternoon. Besides, isn't he dating by Qingqing now? As an outsider, it's not appropriate for me to get involved." After saying that, I ignored her and returned to my bed. Pulling out the high school textbooks wrapped in oilcloth from the bottom of my trunk, by the dim light of the kerosene lamp, I turned to the first page. The next day, news came again that although Gao Deming was not dead, he was severely frostbitten and delirious with fever. The members of the educated youth point discussed going together to the clinic. I went along with the crowd so as not to stand out. When they arrived at the clinic, Gao Deming lay on the sickbed, covered with 2 thick quilts, yet still shivering like a sieve. His face and lips were a bluish purple, his whole face flushed with fever, and he mumbled incoherently. The educated youths couldn't help but sigh when they saw him like this. What a terrible ordeal this must have been. "Doctor, will he have lasting health issues from this?" The doctor shook his head and sighed. "He's been saved, but he was frozen for too long. His internal organs have been damaged. It's hard to say how he'll be in the future." The educated youths gathered around the sickbed, sighing in distress, while I stood at the back, watching coldly. Not only did I feel no pity, but I also thought of my past life. Gao Deming came to see me, his eyes full of undisguised disgust. Later, when I couldn't do heavy work, I was assigned to feed the pigs. He shouted at me in front of the entire team at the threshing ground, "Stay away from me, you stink." When he yelled at me, how could he not have thought about who I had become because of him? I watched as Gao Deming's pained, twisted face on the hospital bed stirred a cold, vengeful satisfaction within me. He stayed in the icy water longer than I did back then, and the consequences will be even worse for him. Gao Deming, this is just the beginning. The suffering I endured in my previous life, in this one, I will make you pay back in full, too. The educated youths were always frowning. Gao Deming was always good at pretending to be nice, and everyone genuinely worried about him. What will happen next? Gao Deming cherished his hands the most, always saying that when he returned to the city, he would definitely be able to become a skilled senior worker. I heard it was Bai Qingqing who invited him out, but despite such a big incident, Bai Qingqing has only come once, and stayed for less than 10 minutes before leaving. I stood in the corner of the hospital room. Listening to these words, silent. At that moment, the doctor treating Gao Deming walked in. "We need to change the dressing today. Can someone help?" He's still very agitated. Two male educated youths immediately stepped forward. When the doctor removed the bandage from Gao Deming's hand, the helpers couldn't help but gasp in shock. His fingers and legs were swollen like purple-black radishes, with the skin around the joints breaking open to reveal the waxy, necrotic flesh beneath, making anyone who saw it shudder. Arg! Upon seeing the state of his limbs, Gao Deming let out a heart-wrenching scream. He thrashed around on the bed like a madman, slamming his elbows into the bed frame. "How could this happen? My hand. How can I work in the factory with a crippled hand? My whole life is ruined." The two male educated youths couldn't hold him down, and the ointment was knocked over and spilled on the ground. I frowned and stepped forward, saying, "Let me handle it." I grabbed his wrist directly, my fingertips precisely pressing on the red and white mottled skin at the edge of the frostbite. That spot was the most sensitive, and the slightest pressure felt like a needle piercing into the bone. The intense pain instantly choked Gao Deming's cry in his throat. He stiffened in pain, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead, and stared at me in disbelief. "If you keep moving around, you'll really end up crippled." I looked at him expressionlessly. "Doctor, please continue applying the medicine. I'll hold him down." To others, it seemed like a desperate attempt to help, but only I knew how much pain that gentle press caused. Gao Deming indeed didn't dare to move again, watching as the doctor spread the black ointment over his frostbitten areas. His eyes quickly dimmed, and he looked at me with a gaze that bordered on pleading. "Yulan, will my hands ever get better?" I recalled the various taunts I had endured in my previous life and spoke in the calmest tone. "The skin and flesh are frozen dead, and the nerves are the same. Even if they recover in the future, it won't be like that of a normal person. Don't even think about operating machinery. I'm afraid you won't even be able to hold a pair of chopsticks steadily, and if an infection sets in, amputation might be necessary." Gao Deming's face turned ashen in an instant. I let go of my hand expressionlessly, feeling no guilt whatsoever. The female educated youth beside me tugged at my arm and whispered, "Magnolia, you're being too harsh. How could he handle such a shock?" I hid the coldness in my eyes, my tone carrying a hint of reluctance. "Better a short, sharp pain than a long one. He needs to face reality sooner rather than later, and that's for his own good." Compared to when he called me a useless waste and said I disgusted him in front of the entire team, what's this in comparison? Didn't he regret being saved by me in his previous life? Now he has finally gotten what he wished for. 3. Gao Deming is lying in the clinic, and the people from the educated youth point have agreed to take turns sending someone to take care of him every day. A few days later, it was my turn. As I carried a basket of steamed corn buns over, Gao Deming was lying in bed, sighing heavily. Two male educated youths left early to help the villagers with their work. Seeing that it was me, a flicker of disappointment crossed his face. He remained silent for a while, but eventually, his hunger got the better of him. He pointed to the cold, hardened corn bun and spoke in a hoarse voice. "My hands don't work. Break it up for me and feed me a few bites." His tone carried an air of unquestionable command. I looked at him, unmoving. In my past life, I had a high fever, felt weak all over, and couldn't get out of bed. I wanted him to help me get a cup of water and feed me. Instead, he looked impatient and slammed the enamel cup down on the bedside table. "Not like you don't have hands. Who are you trying to act spoiled for?" Because of those words, I forced myself to get out of bed, only to fall and hit my head, causing a deep gash that wouldn't stop bleeding. Now, seeing him like this, I suddenly found it a bit amusing. I picked up the steamed bread, and in his expectant gaze, I returned the words to him verbatim. "Who are you being so spoiled for? You're not helpless." Gao Deming was taken aback, as if he hadn't expected me to say that. His pale face instantly turned bright red, and he angrily turned his head away, refusing to acknowledge me. For a moment, the hospital room was so quiet that only his heavy breathing could be heard. After a while, he turned his head back, his tone softening with a hint of pleading. "Yulan, my hands really aren't convenient. Could you help me, please?" He saw that I remained silent and continued speaking. "Ask Qingqing for me if she can come visit me today. Tell her, I miss her very much." I nodded and agreed, because I really wanted to know what kind of person Bai Qingqing was. The one he had been longing for across 2 lifetimes. Back at the commune, I went straight to Bai Qingqing's room. Before I even entered, I could hear her and another female commune member laughing inside. I walked in and saw her carefully applying snow cream to her face in front of a small mirror, wearing a clean shirt, clearly getting ready to go out. I relayed what Gao Deming had said. Bai Qingqing heard it, didn't even turn her head, and impatiently said, I know, I'm busy." okay, the female educated youth next to her teased with a smile. Qingqing, where are you off to? You're dressed so chic. Bai Qingqing proudly raised her eyebrows. The cadre Wang invited me to watch a movie in the county tonight. If I'm late, I'll miss the beginning. After saying that, she seemed to just remember Gao Deming, and turned back to say perfunctorily to me, tell him that I'll visit him when I have some free time. 4. When I returned to the clinic, Gao Deming immediately propped himself up, eagerly asking me, what did Qingqing say? Is she coming over right away? I told him by Qingqing's exact words without any alteration. Gao Deming stood in a daze for a moment, muttering to himself as if trying to convince himself, she must be trying to get some nutritional supplements for me. I curled my lips, speaking with a hint of meaning. No, she's dressed up beautifully, she's going to the movies tonight. I originally thought frostbite was Gao Deming's greatest punishment, but now it seems Bai Qingqing is his greatest tribulation. I saw the light in Gao Deming's eyes completely extinguished. He stared blankly at the ceiling, sinking into a dead silence. I was tired of seeing his half-dead expression, so I slammed the enamel bowl down on the table and turned to leave. As I turned, I heard a muffled sob behind me. Whatever happens to his life is no longer my concern. At the same time, I received a package from my parents in the city, sent through various channels. Unwrapping the thick oilcloth, I found several brand new review materials for math, physics, and chemistry. Along with a letter. In the letter, my parents told me they had heard that the National College entrance exam might be reinstated soon. They urged me, regardless of whether the news was true or false, to seize this opportunity and return to the city by taking the exam. Having lived another life, I already knew this was true. When the definite news came from my parents' pen, I still couldn't hold back tears of excitement. This is the opportunity I've been waiting for my entire life. From that day on, I studied even harder. During the day at work, I would write formulas on my palm and sneak in some memorization during breaks. Late at night, after everyone else had gone to sleep at the commune, I worked through problem after problem by the light of the moon. In the stillness of the night, I couldn't help but think of my past life. Back then, when I married Gao Deming, my health was already failing. Yet I never gave up on the idea of studying. I always thought that learning more might open up other opportunities. After all the effort to save up and buy textbooks, Gao Deming snatched them away, tore them up, and threw them into the stove. He looked at me with a mocking sneer and cursed, do you even understand them? You think you can become a cultured person, a useless wretch who can't even have children. Reading more books just makes you a laughingstock. No one will ever ruin my future again. Thinking of this, I studied even harder. It wasn't until half a month later that Gao Deming was discharged from the hospital. As soon as I finished work in the fields, I saw Bai Qingqing affectionately supporting Gao Deming, both of them laughing and chatting. 5. I looked at the two intimately close individuals in front of me in astonishment. Everyone thought Bai Qingqing had completely cut ties with Gao Deming. After all, although his fingers and legs weren't amputated, they were completely necrotic, and he walked with a limp. With his current condition, not only could he not return to the city and work in a factory, but even staying in the countryside to do farm work had become a burden. Gao Deming's face couldn't hide his pride and showmanship. He tightly held Bai Qingqing's hand and loudly declared in front of all the educated youths and Captain Zhang, Captain Zhang, with my current condition, I can't do without someone to take care of me. Qingqing said she's willing to take care of me. Could you arrange for us to live in the same room? Bai Qingqing shyly lowered her head and softly agreed with his words. Captain Zhang, Gao Deming said he will marry me in the future, and I truly want to take care of him. As soon as these words were spoken, the room erupted in chaos. In the 1970s, unmarried men and women living together was considered a grave moral offense. If word got out, not only would the educated youth camp be criticized, but the entire brigade would be shamed. What kind of behavior is this? Absolutely not. The captain's face turned ashen in an instant. If news of this got out, how could their brigade hold their heads high outside? The other educated youths also quickly chimed in. Qingqing, even if you're engaged, it's easy for a girl to get taken advantage of. How can you live in the same room with a male comrade? I watched Bai Qingqing's sacrificial demeanor for love, full of doubts in my heart. In my previous life, I accidentally discovered that Gao Deming falling into the ice hole was entirely her design. Just a few days ago, she was avoiding Gao Deming like a snake or scorpion. How is it that in just a few days, she's willing to live with him? It couldn't be a sudden pang of conscience. As the situation grew tense, Captain Zhang remained unyielding. Gao Deming suddenly became agitated, pointing at Captain Zhang and shouting, if you don't agree, you're forcing me to die. I barely survived, and if you don't let me live in peace, I'll just ram my head into the wall and die again." He started yelling and ramming into the wall, causing chaos in the room. Captain Zhang's face was as dark as a pot bottom. Being assigned such a troublemaking educated youth was his worst luck in 8 lifetimes. I watched as Gao Deming threw a tantrum, rolling around like a scoundrel. Suddenly, I remembered my past life. Every time he got drunk, he would beat me up and shout, "If it weren't for your meddling, I would have married Qingqing by now. Her father is the factory director, and I would have been the workshop manager by now. It's all your fault, you useless wretch, for ruining my life." But as far as I know, Bai Qingqing isn't the daughter of a factory director at all. Thinking of this, I stepped forward. "Captain Zhang, let's not argue anymore." All eyes turned to me. "Isn't that thatched hut next to the youth camp always empty? Since they are both willing, it wouldn't be right to forcefully stop them. It's better to let them move there to live, so they stop causing trouble here every day, affecting everyone's rest and work." My proposal instantly silenced the room. Captain Zhang frowned and pondered for a moment, clearly wanting to offload these 2 hot potatoes. This proposal hit the mark for Gao Deming and Bai Qingqing. Gao Deming immediately stopped his antics, and Bai Qingqing couldn't hide her triumphant smile. That afternoon, under the scornful gazes of everyone, they moved into the dilapidated thatched hut with its leaky walls. In his previous life, Gao Deming always blamed his failures on not marrying Bai Qingqing, the factory director's daughter. This time around, I'll do them a favor and personally bring them together. I want to see how high he can soar in this life without my burden holding him back. 6. After Gao Deming and Bai Qingqing moved out, life at the educated youth point became much quieter. I used all the extra time I saved for studying. For me, the college entrance exam was the only chance to change my fate, and I couldn't afford to mess it up. However, life was clearly not easy for Gao Deming and Bai Qingqing. The thatched hut leaked air from all sides and was completely uninhabitable. Gao Deming's limbs became useless, and out of pity, the team gave him a symbolic half-work point. Bai Qingqing initially pretended to take care of him, but later she barely showed up for work. The couple's food supply quickly ran out. One night, as I got up to use the restroom, I happened to pass by a thatched hut and overheard Bai Qingqing's self-reproach, her voice trembling with tears. "Deming Ge, it's all my fault. I'm so weak, I can't even help you share the burden. Seeing you suffer, it hurts me more than anyone else. I'm not afraid of enduring hardships here. I'm afraid we won't have a future." Gao Deming was so moved by her tenderness that he held her tightly in his arms, comforting her. "There will be a way, Qingqing. Once I return to the city, everything will get better." Bai Qingqing was crying like a pear tree in the rain. "But your hand, even if you return to the city, the factory won't want a worker who can't do the job, so what do you suggest we do?" Gao Deming's voice grew anxious. Bai Qingqing, as if determined, earnestly said, "Deming, can I go in your place?" Gao Deming was visibly stunned. Bai Qingqing quickly explained, "Listen to me, give me your spot, and I'll go back to the city and get a factory job first. I'm young and strong, I can earn money. Once I settle down, I'll send all my salary to you and find a way to get you back for treatment through connections. We only have this one chance. We must use it wisely so that both of us can survive." Every word she said was for their future. Hearing this, I sneered inwardly. It turns out she was after the quota to return to the city. No wonder she suddenly changed her ways. Gao Deming didn't suspect a thing and said with emotion, "Qingqing, I'll do as you say. I'll write to my parents right away and have them transfer the quota to you." This shocking news quickly spread throughout the entire educated youth camp. Everyone thought Gao Deming had lost his mind. The chance to return to the city, something so many longed for, he gave it up for a woman. Moreover, this spot was only secured for him because of his physical injury, and his family had pulled every string to get it. A fellow educated youth came to me, unable to hold back the question, "Jiang Yulan, aren't you and Gao Deming childhood friends?" Seeing him like this, "Why don't you try to talk him out of it?" I flipped through the book, not even looking up as I replied, "Just ordinary neighbors. He chose his own path, and everyone has to take responsibility for their own choices." The person hit a wall and left, feeling deflated, and Gao Deming himself, facing the gossip of the crowd, looked rather smug, when someone cautiously asked him, "Gao Deming, did you really give the spot to Bai Qingqing?" He raised his head, his expression haughty. "Yes, what about it? Do you think I'm as short-sighted as you? This is our way out. You wouldn't understand. This is called love." I stood not far away, coldly watching his blissful face, feeling nothing inside. People around him looked like they wanted to say something but eventually just shook their heads and walked away, probably thinking he's really lost it. 7. I put all my energy into studying. Every day after work, I would go to the abandoned barn to read. It was quiet there, and no one disturbed me. One day, as I was silently reciting formulas, Gao Deming limped in. He instinctively tried to stand straighter to hide his gait, a hint of discomfort flashing across his face, but it was quickly replaced by pride. Since giving up his spot, he rarely goes to the fields anymore. He spends all day cooped up in their thatched hut with Bai Qingqing, barely getting by on the meager rations distributed at the commune. He thought I was hiding here because I was heartbroken over his relationship with Bai Qingqing. Jiang Yulan, I've been looking for you all afternoon. I didn't look up, continuing to study the formulas in my book, unwilling to waste a single ray of light before nightfall. My indifference seemed to upset him a bit, but he quickly put on a smile, speaking in a tone that reeked of condescension. I have some good news for you. Qingqing has already gotten my application form for returning to the city and finding a job. Once her father finishes the paperwork in the city, she'll be a formal worker at a state-owned factory. He paused, his eyes fixed on me, as if waiting for me to show signs of pain or jealousy. Seeing that I showed no reaction, he emphasized his tone. We're getting engaged soon. Once she settles down in the city, she'll come back for me. He probably thought those words would hurt me, that I still liked him as I used to. Unfortunately, he didn't know he was already forgotten by me. I slowly raised my head only after silently reciting the last formula. Watching his smug expression, I found it utterly ridiculous. He continued speaking, his voice filled with an inexplicable certainty. I know you've always wanted to marry me, but love cannot be forced. The only person I love is Qingqing. My mind was filled with question marks as I listened to him. I couldn't even be bothered to correct this absurd statement. It was just too much to take in. Watching him get all emotional, I calmly said, "You're overthinking it." Gao Deming chuckled derisively, clearly not believing it. "Stop pretending. I know you're hurting inside. You used to follow me around all the time. Anyone could see how you felt." He straightened his chest, his tone brimming with superiority. "Qingqing and I are meant to be together for life. There's no chance for us anymore." I raised an eyebrow and offered a calm congratulations. "Congratulations, and may you have children soon." Gao Deming's smile froze. He clearly hadn't expected me to react this way. I didn't give him a chance to continue speaking, pointing at his figure blocking the light. "Excuse me, you're blocking the light." 8. Gao Deming's pride didn't last long. After Bai Qingqing got the application form to return to the city, she stopped working in the fields altogether, cutting off their last source of work points. Without work points, their food supply quickly ran out. Gao Deming had no choice but to drag his crippled leg and repeatedly borrow food from the canteen. At first, some people still helped him out of old feelings, but after a while, no one could afford to do so anymore. Everyone was tight on their own food supply, and no one was willing to give endlessly. The conflict erupted completely at the autumn harvest labor discipline struggle meeting. Captain Zhang named and criticized those who were not actively working, specifically mentioning Bai Qingqing. Some people don't even bother to work in the fields, always scheming to return to the city through crooked means. This kind of thinking is unacceptable. As soon as the words were out, Gao Deming abruptly stood up, his face flushed red. He pointed at Captain Zhang and shouted, "Who are you calling crooked? Qingqing is working for our future. She's going back to the city to find a job first, so I have something to look forward to later. What do you know?" A male-educated youth couldn't take it anymore and stood up to refute. "Gao Deming, are you crazy? You give her the spot, and do you really think she'll care about you once she's back in the city? If she really cared, would she just watch you beg all over the place every day? You don't need to." Gao Deming's emotions completely spiraled out of control. "You're just jealous that someone loves me, jealous that we'll have a good life in the future." He grew more and more agitated, limping forward as if ready to confront the male-educated youth physically. The scene instantly descended into chaos. "Enough." Captain Zhang slammed the table, his face darkening. Seeing Gao Deming, who couldn't be reasoned with, he lost his last shred of sympathy and announced publicly, "Gao Deming, you refuse to repent, insult your comrades, and from today onwards, all your work point subsidies and grain rations will be revoked. We will compile your case and report it to the commune." The entire room fell silent in an instant. "This means Gao Deming won't get a single grain of food here." Everyone thought he would be afraid to admit his mistake. He let out a cold laugh and sat down nonchalantly. "Who cares? My family will send me money and grain coupons." A bunch of peasants. After the meeting, everyone silently avoided him. He had become completely isolated. But it seems he's blaming me for the source of his isolation. One evening, he blocked me at the entrance of the educated youth camp. his eyes dark with resentment. Jiang Yulan, if you had stopped me from going out to look for Qingqing, I wouldn't have fallen through the ice, and my limbs wouldn't have been injured. He spoke as if it were a matter of course, as though my failure to stop him was the root cause of his disability. I find it utterly speechless, even a bit ridiculous. I looked at him and calmly asked, "Are you 3 years old? Do you need someone to watch you when you go out?" He was momentarily stumped, his face filled with deeper resentment, and he glared at me fiercely before turning and leaving. A few days later, the brigade sent me to the county to deliver materials. I happened to see Gao Deming as I passed the corner. He furtively pulled something out of his coat and spoke in a hushed voice to someone. I recognized it, a Shanghai brand watch. A coming-of-age gift from his family. He had always treasured it, but now it was clear he was planning to sell it. 9. With the hope of returning to the city, I'd been receiving frequent letters from home lately. In the letters, my parents mentioned Gao Deming, who told them he got engaged in the countryside. The fiancée is the daughter of a factory director, and he asked them to send the tickets for the 3 turns and 1 ring as betrothal gifts immediately. They also mentioned that Gao Deming's parents are now bragging to all the neighbors. They boast that their son is doing well, has found a partner from an official family, and has a bright future ahead. They always have to take a dig at our family, feeling relieved they didn't get engaged to our daughter from an ordinary working-class family. This incident really angered my parents, and they cursed the Gao family several times in their letter. What's there to be proud of, emptying your savings for a daughter-in-law you've never even met? But they also nervously asked me if I still liked Deming Gao. The letter subtly implies that the Gao family is unreliable, their family values are poor, and they are snobbish. After reading the letter, I looked at my parents' strong and confident tone, and I couldn't help but feel like crying. In my previous life, I was abused, and my parents fought hard to help me get a divorce, but they were condemned by everyone. In the end, it was the elderly who had to see me, the younger one, off. I can't wait to return to their side and show my filial devotion. A few days later, a piece of news set the entire youth camp abuzz. The National College entrance exam is being reinstated. On the day the official document reached the brigade, everyone went crazy. Rummaging through their belongings for high school textbooks, everyone's faces showed a mix of excitement, confusion, and panic as they scurried around asking about the exam news. I too felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Although I had reviewed every textbook I could find, I still feared my preparation wasn't enough. All the educated youths began burning the midnight oil, cramming for the college entrance exam. Bai Qingqing was the only exception. She neither sought books nor inquired about news, as if the resumption of the college entrance exam had nothing to do with her. One evening, while passing by the brigade warehouse to fetch water, I accidentally saw 2 people meeting. I stopped and realized one of them was Bai Qingqing. Another man was Comrade Wang, who was in charge of the affairs of the educated youth in the commune. I couldn't help but laugh. Gao Deming's family had spent all their savings on her, only to find out that he wasn't even a backup plan. 10. I heard Bai Qingqing say triumphantly, "I've got my ticket back to the city. You'd better marry me when I return." Comrade Wang smiled, his tone tinged with condescension. "You're living with Gao Deming every day now. Nothing's going on, right?" Bai Qingqing pouted. "What are you afraid of? He sleeps like a dead pig, and I sneak out to be with you every night, don't I? You haven't seen how disgusting his wounds are. They're so gross that I can't even eat. I did it all for you. Once we drain his family's money, we can go back to the city and buy a big house." Then came the sound of their passionate, lingering kiss. Only after they were far away did I quietly return to the dorm with my bucket. I pretended nothing had happened. Gao Deming being deceived. I couldn't have clapped harder. I'm not getting involved in their messy affairs. The other educated youths also noticed that Bai Qingqing went out every day dressed to the nines. She's coming back later and later, sometimes not returning at all. Everyone can't help but gossip about it in private. Once Gao Deming overheard, he almost started a fight again. In his eyes, Bai Qingqing did everything for his sake. He gave all the money and grain coupons sent by his family to Bai Qingqing, but they were quickly spent. The canteen had long stopped providing him with food, and he could only survive on occasional gruel from a few fellow educated youths who were on good terms with him. His nutrition was inadequate, and his old injuries hadn't healed properly. His frostbitten hands and lame leg began to flare up, with the frostbite sores festering and oozing pus. His room emitted a revolting stench of rotting meat, making it unbearable to approach, but he endured it in silence, as if afraid of causing trouble for Bai Qingqing. Not long after, something happened to him. I heard from the male educated youth living next door that the stench was so bad he couldn't sleep. When I pushed open the door to Gao Deming's room, I saw him lying in bed motionless, almost thinking he was gone. Later, I mustered the courage to touch his forehead and found it burning hot. With him already unconscious from the fever, they hurriedly lifted him onto the cart and rushed him to the commune health clinic. Meanwhile, Bai Qingqing had mysteriously disappeared. 11. This time, Gao Deming's condition was far worse than last time. After examining his festering, pus-filled limbs, the doctor at the clinic called Captain Zhang aside with a grave expression. As the representative of the educated youth point, I listened along. The doctor said gravely, "The infection is too severe. To save his life, his right foot must be amputated. Amputation means Gao Deming is completely crippled for the rest of his life." Captain Zhang was silent for a long time before sighing and saying to me, "Jiang Yulan, go inform Bai Qingqing. After all, she's Gao Deming's fiancé, and she needs to know about this." When I found Bai Qingqing, she was packing her things on the bunk, holding the envelope with the introduction letter and residence transfer certificate. Her face was filled with excitement and anticipation of leaving. I told her the doctor's words exactly as they were. Her smile vanished instantly, and her first question blurted out, "Did they stamp the transfer procedure for his return quota at the brigade and commune? Will this affect my return now?" She didn't care at all about Gao Deming's well-being. All she was concerned about was whether her own return quota was secure. I looked at her and nodded. "It won't affect you. Your procedures are complete." She visibly relaxed. Reluctantly, she followed me to the clinic under the disdainful gazes of the other educated youths. Gao Deming lay unconscious in the hospital bed, his face burning red. Bai Qingqing only glanced at the door before turning around and leaving in a hurry. Captain Zhang asked me to stay and get Gao Deming's contact information after he wakes up. In the middle of the night, Gao Deming woke up groggily, seeing me by the bed. 2 lines of tears slid down from his cracked corners of the eyes. "Jiang Yulan, am I going to lose my limb? Will I become a cripple from now on?" I said indifferently, "It's okay. Bai Qingqing will take care of you from now on." He paused, as if trying to convince himself. Yes, Qingqing said she would take care of me, and she would make me happy. I knew that in order to marry Bai Qingqing, he had already drained his family's resources. It's unbearable to accept the fact that Bai Qingqing doesn't love him at all. But the night before Bai Qingqing was leaving, Gao Deming somehow got wind of it. He sneaked out of the clinic, limping with his injured leg, and intercepted me at the gate of the educated youth camp. He was shouting incoherently, "Yulan, that woman Bai Qingqing deceived me." 12. Gao Deming grabbed my arm, his eyes bloodshot, his voice trembling. "Someone told me that Bai Qingqing had been involved with the commune's Wang Ganji for a long time, and many people have seen them together. She never intended to take me back to the city. It was all a lie." I watched him fall apart, saying nothing. No one hadn't warned him about these things. Ever since Bai Qingqing started staying out all night, the gossip at the youth camp never stopped. It was just that he didn't want to believe it. He choked back tears, his voice suddenly rising. "Even my fall into the ice hole was her plan." I didn't expect him to find out the truth so quickly. Asked with a hint of surprise, "How did you know that?" He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from his and handed it to me, trembling. "This is the letter Bai Qingqing never sent. Because Comrade Wang didn't like me, she deliberately tricked me into a thin ice area to ruin me in order to please him." Wang Ganbu and Gao Deming had a minor disagreement, nothing serious. Bai Qingqing's letter was full of disdain and schemes against Gao Deming. Gao Deming slumped to the ground, wailing with his hands covering his head. He cried while pounding his own legs. I gave her all the money from home and even let her have the return quota. I thought she truly cared for me, thinking about my past life. All I can say is I deserved it. Tired of his nonsense, I interrupted. "There's no way to fix this now. The most important thing for you is to go back and recover properly." I turned to leave, but he lunged forward and grabbed my trouser leg. "Yulan, I know I was wrong. I was blind before and I'm sorry for what I did to you. Now only you can help me. Can we start over? I know you still love me, and I promise to treat you well from now on." The other educated youths were stunned, clearly not expecting him to say such things. I bent down, forcing myself to push his hand away despite the disgust. I mimicked his most common contemptuous tone from his previous life, speaking each word deliberately. "How could someone as crippled and unsteady on their feet as you ever deserve me?" Gao Deming's sobs abruptly stopped. His eyes filled with disbelief. I didn't even glance at him again, turning around and leaving. "I'm not a recycling center. I don't have to dig through trash to find a man." 13. The next morning, I was awakened by a scream. When I ran out of the dorm, a crowd had already gathered by the tractor at the village entrance, ready to head to the county town. I squeezed in and saw Bai Qingqing holding a canvas bag. about to board the bus, but Gao Deming blocked the front of the vehicle. He leaned on a wooden stick, his other hand tightly gripping an axe, his face contorted in a terrifying grimace. When Bai Qingqing saw him, all the color drained from her face, and she trembled like a sieve. Deming Gu, please listen to me. I promise I'll come back for you. I'm going to find a doctor for you. Gao Deming wouldn't listen and suddenly raised the firewood axe, slashing down at her with full force. Everyone was frozen in fear, not daring to move. Bai Qingqing didn't have time to dodge and was struck multiple times, collapsing to the ground with blood spraying everywhere. After stabbing her to death, Gao Deming burst into maniacal laughter. Soon, the village militia rushed over and pinned him down on the spot, tying him up. There was no escaping prison for sure. Everyone was sighing, what a tragedy, a good person reduced to this. But this incident was quickly forgotten as the college entrance exam was about to begin. I took the exam in the county town and received an admission letter from the capital university a month later. The red seal was stamped on the white paper, clearly bearing my name. Tears welled up in my eyes. On the day I left, Captain Zhang came to see me off. Before the train started, he sighed and said, Gao Deming seems to have tetanus in prison, and he's not doing well. His family wrote to ask if we could consider discontinuing treatment to save on medical expenses. I didn't respond. Perhaps this is karma. Outside the window, fields, houses, and familiar figures were quickly receding, and sunlight streamed through the window onto me. All that was left behind is now far behind. My parents are waiting for me to come home early to celebrate. The train rumbles forward, carrying me toward a bright and promising future. End. Story 2. I am the villainess in the book. The devoted second male lead drove a taxi to support me through my bachelor's and master's degrees. We were no longer on the same level, and I felt he wasn't good enough for me, so I dumped him, yet he died in a car explosion while trying to save me. I suddenly awakened, reborn in the year I graduated with my master's degree, the year I despised him the most. I ran to his rented apartment, where he rubbed his temples, his voice weary and desperate. Speak, I'll accept whatever you say. I frantically grabbed his hand, tears streaming down my face as I choked out the words, Qi Zhou. When are you going to marry me? 1. I am the vicious supporting female character in the novel. My impoverished taxi driver boyfriend Qi Zhou provided for my food, my drinks, and even my university education, yet after graduating with a master's degree, I abruptly dumped him. I leveraged some tactics to join a Fortune 500 company and thrived spectacularly. My ruthless methods made many enemies, and they tampered with my car, the moment my car spun out of control. Qi Zhou chased at breakneck speed in his rundown taxi. The two vehicles collided violently. Qi Zhou, with blood streaming terrifyingly from his forehead, staggered as he carried me down from the vehicle. But it was too late. The thick smell of gasoline enveloped us completely. He used all his strength to hurl me out. A tremendous explosion roared, detonating across the pale gray sky. Amidst the shower of sparks, Qi Zhou vanished completely along with the wreckage of the two vehicles. I distinctly remember the moment he threw me out. He said to me, Chen Yan, I love you. Live well. How could there be such a foolish person in this world? I'm not worthy of his kindness at all. Qi Zhou, you big idiot. I finally awakened, filled with regret for my past actions. I was about to rush over like a madman, but the rescue team held me back. Danger. Don't go over there. They're already dead. Yes, Qi Zhou is dead. The person who treated me best in this world is gone. And my life will never have him again, crying until one's heart and liver feel torn apart. When I opened my eyes again, I had actually been reborn. I was reborn 6 years earlier, on the day of my graduate school graduation ceremony, too. But this was no ordinary graduation ceremony. I stood on the podium with a gathering of business elites and dignitaries below the stage. Each of them was a prominent figure in the business circle. Simply securing an offer from one of these big shots would elevate me to the clouds. Like a carp leaping over the dragon gate, I would soar to success from then on. But I know that talent alone isn't enough to break into the top tiers of the strong and prosperous, for someone like me, born from humble roots with no family background. There may be shortcuts, but they're not honorable. So, very quickly, I caught someone's attention, just finished introducing my resume, stepped down from the stage, drinking water. A man in a tailored suit approached. He was Gu Jingqing, the general manager of Yadin Group, holding a high position. He controlled the career fate of half the fresh graduates. In my previous life, I slept with him once, and the next day I received an employment offer from Yadin Group. At this moment, he locked onto me as his prey, a look of confident determination flashing across his face. Miss Chen, I've had my eye on you for a while. Not only are you exceptionally beautiful, but your talents are equally impressive. I particularly admire you." I forced a smile and said, "Thank you." I turned to leave, but he wouldn't let me. "Could you give me a chance to become your talent scout? Gu Jingqing is a very dangerous man. He fell for me as his bed warmer, yet feared my capabilities." In my 6th year at Yachting Group, I consistently topped the sales charts annually, bringing substantial profits to the company. My position kept breaking promotion conventions, rapidly approaching Gu Jingqing's role as general manager. For businessman Gu Jingqing, women are far less important than profit, and my existence seriously threatens his position. So he craftily leaked the news that I was his mistress to his actress wife Xing Xian, since her reputation and value are tied to Gu Jingqing. She had no choice but to eliminate me. The tampering with my car was orchestrated by this woman. To stay alive, I would never seek death in this lifetime, but the plot's progression inevitably leads me to confront Gu Jingqing again. His gaze never left me as he casually picked up a glass of red wine from a passing waiter's tray and clinked glasses with me. "Drinking water is so dull, we should have wine." As he spoke, he replaced the water in my hand with a high-alcohol Penfolds red wine. After finishing one glass, he immediately refilled it for me, then slowly leaned in to whisper in my ear, "People with your level of education are a dime a dozen in society. Without connections, you have no real advantage." I subtly stepped back a few paces, but he persistently closed the distance again. He directly reached his hand to my waist. "But I can help you, on the condition that you give me some benefit." 3. I felt so disgusted I nearly vomited, just as I was about to break free from him. My shrewd female mentor Lu Yuping approached. She pushed me toward Gu Jingqing. "Oh my, President Zhou, long time no see. How have you been considering the project I mentioned last time?" Gu Jingqing's rough palms began rubbing against the small of my back. Despite Lu Yuping's meaningful glances, I clearly slapped away Gu Jingqing's hand. Gu Jingqing's face immediately darkened. "I was just about to have my assistant send you the contract." He glanced at me again, clearly shifting the blame. "I don't think it's necessary now." Gu Jingqing left in a huff, with Lu Yuping chasing after him unwillingly. She ended up being rebuffed and angrily confronted me. "What's going on with you? Didn't we agree? You sleep with him, you get your job secured, and my project can proceed smoothly." Her calculations were crystal clear, using me as a stepping stone to effortlessly climb into upper business circles. Lu Yuping was 40 but well maintained with a good figure. I sized her up and smirked faintly. "Why don't you go yourself? Maybe Gu Jingqing wouldn't mind. After all, once the lights are off, everyone's the same." Lu Yuping's eyes nearly popped out of her head in anger. "I have a husband." "Oh, so she still knows about propriety and shame. Then I have a boyfriend too. I could never do something to betray him." After speaking, I took the resume form and headed towards the exit of the hall. "Humph, with that shabby boyfriend of yours. Even if he works himself to death driving a taxi his whole life, he wouldn't earn a fraction of Gu Jingqing's pocket change." Lu Yuping curled her lips and sneered. "I've been trying to talk sense into you since your first year of grad school. I thought you'd finally understood, but it seems you've grown older without growing wiser, stubborn as ever, destined to stay in the lower class your whole life." In my past life, Lu Yuping and I were cut from the same cloth, less brainwashed. More like birds of a feather flocking together, yet I took advantage of Qi Zholi sending me money every month. So I strung along this easy mark while following Lu Yuping into wealthy circles, chasing fame and fortune. She'd invested too much effort nurturing this sapling, me, to watch her labor flow away like spilled water. In no time, she approached with a face-changing swiftness reminiscent of Peking opera. "Chen Yen, a girl's chastity isn't always that important. Just take off your clothes. Lie down, and a future full of happiness will be waiting for you. Be good now, listen to your teacher's advice, go and appease Mr. Zhou." I also smiled and waved at Gu Jingqing, who hadn't gone far yet. Both Lu Yuping and Gu Jingqing thought I'd come around, their faces creased with smiles, but the first sentence out of my mouth pissed them off thoroughly. "President Zhou, my teacher said if you don't mind, she'll devote all her efforts to accompany you tonight. Aren't you disgusted at your age? Take a piss and look at yourself in the puddle." Gu Jingqing, having suffered setbacks twice in a row, vented all his resentment on Lu Yuping. "Chen Yen, well done. I can reject your graduation thesis and make sure you don't get your diploma." Lu Yuping trembled with rage, and I patted her shoulder. "During my postgraduate studies, you exploited me repeatedly. My labor and compensation were never equitable. Projects I worked on tirelessly day and night were published under your name alone." Lu Yuping, your vanity left no room for genuine mentorship, and you passed me off to another professor. You probably forgot that I was already that professor's student, and you even signed my transfer application. Most advisors are good, but Lu Yuping is too self-interested. She doesn't want to put effort into me, yet tries to gain benefits from me. Let her indulge in her pipe dreams." After venting out, I felt refreshed and clear-headed. Turning around, I saw Qi Zhou standing at the banquet hall entrance in the distance. His clothes were worn, his eyes weary, as if he had just come from a great distance. In my past life, he scramped and saved to put me through college and graduate school. Yet I told him not to come to my graduation ceremony, but he came secretly anyway, even if it meant hiding in a corner. He just wanted to witness my moment of glory with his own eyes. It was on this day that he saw me getting into Gu Jingqing's car, witnessing his girlfriend in another man's bed, but fortunately, the timeline of rebirth hadn't reached that point yet. Seeing him standing perfectly fine before me, I nearly cried, forcing back the stinging in my eyes. I rushed over and pulled him into a tight embrace. "Qi Zhou, I miss you so much." The familiar scent on him made tears stream uncontrollably down my face. He froze for a moment, raising his hand to wipe my tears, but as if remembering something, his hand dropped powerlessly. "I haven't washed my hands or taken a shower." Then he indifferently pushed me away. "You'd better stay away from me. Don't dirty your graduation gown." Someone deliberately directed everyone's attention to me and Qi Zhou. The discussion immediately became heated. Shocked. My boyfriend who graduated from a prestigious university actually dresses so shabbily. Could he be a migrant worker? What on earth does she see in him? Must be book smart but street dumb. Don't dismiss it. The guy's face looks like a celebrity's. Maybe that's just her type. They don't care whether their words might hurt others. Speaking quite loudly, I simply let those vulgar words go in one ear and out the other. "Let's go, Qi Zhou." As usual, withdrew his gaze and turned away, his slender back stiffly straight, like a green bamboo in the night wind, solitary and unyielding. "Hey, driver, don't leave yet." Jing Xian, who had not yet entered the entertainment industry nor become Gu Jingqing's wife, called out to him, then turned to the people beside her and said, "When I came here, I took his taxi. He charges by the meter without any extra fees. Much better than other drivers. If you need a ride, you can get his contact info." I thought no one would respond to this rude proposal, but someone just crossed their arms and laughed. "Sure, later you can send me his contact info. My family's driver hasn't had a vacation in a while." I looked carefully to see which group of chickens was making noise. Turns out it was Lu Yuping's clique of sisters from the same department. Because my project achievements have repeatedly been commended and recognized by school leaders, these people can't stand to see me doing well. Jing Xian, the instigator, walked over and said to me with a smile, "Chen Yan, I brought so much business to your boyfriend, shouldn't you treat me to a thank you meal?" Like me, Jing Xian came from humble beginnings. She worked hard to fight her way from a backward small village to the big city. She was always the top student in school, until she met me. If those rich girls couldn't stand seeing the poor improve, then Jing Xian simply hated me for being better than her. In my previous life, I told her, "You were married to Gu Jingqing for only 3 years, but I was his mistress for 6. She was utterly enraged and, with Gu Jingqing's instigation, ended up killing me. Unaffected by them, I instead clung to Qi Zhou's arm like a treasure and said to Jing Xian with a smile, "Forget about thanking me with a meal. After all, my boyfriend's car isn't just for anyone to ride in." Qi Zhou glanced down at me with a probing look. I held on to him even tighter. Usually it's customers who choose drivers, but with my boyfriend here, it's the driver who chooses. Sometimes he might kindly give a ride to some stray cat or dog, but people, that's not guaranteed. You called me worse than a dog or cat. I never said that. You're the one putting yourself in that category. You. Jing Xian flailed her arms wildly, raising her hand to hit me, but Qi Zhou intercepted her, then flung her aside, saying with an icy expression, "I don't usually hit women. But if you cross my line, you can be the first." Actually, Qi Zhou appears lean, but his arms are solid with muscle. Jing Xian took a few fearful steps back, looking up at Qi Zhou who towered 30 centimeters above her. At this moment, Gu Jingqing walked over from behind and casually supported Jing Xian's waist. Jing Xian turned to see who it was and actually lowered her head shyly, but Gu Jingqing didn't look at her, his gaze fixed directly on me, gradually calming down. Gu Jingqing regained his usual boss-like demeanor. "Chen Yan, I've always valued talent. I won't hold it against you for rashly rejecting me before. I'm magnanimous enough to give you another chance." Before leaving, Gu Jingqing cast a contemptuous glance at Qi Zhou, then suddenly froze. "Have I seen you somewhere before?" Qi Zhou raised a brow slightly, a faint curve appearing at the corner of his mouth. you remembered wrong. Gu Jingqing didn't think much of it. Instead, shoving a business card into my pocket, think it over, contact me, I'll be waiting anytime. 5. My refusal was so obvious, yet Gu Jingqing still wouldn't give up. Could it be the plot's doing? I stood frozen in place, lost in thought for a moment. Qi Zholi glanced at my expression, let out a light scoff, and walked away with an indifferent face. As his sleeve brushed past my arm, I immediately snapped back to reality. I hurled the business card into the trash bin with force and hurriedly chased after him. Qi Zholi, don't walk so fast, wait for me. Running too quickly, I didn't notice the ground and accidentally tripped over a small roadside stone. I let out an ouch and called out pitifully, Qi Zholi, it hurts so much. I rarely acted coquettishly towards him. Qi Zholi's figure stiffened momentarily before he turned back in fury and roared at me. Chen Yan, can't you stop being so hypocritical? I lay there dazedly, my gaze wavering. Didn't you hear everything I just said? You've always been good at pretending, haven't you? You used to have me completely fooled. Besides, in that kind of situation, you could only play the role of the perfect girlfriend. No, if I hadn't come today, you probably would have ended up in bed with that man already. Qi Zholi let out a mocking laugh, cutting me off as he glanced at the black Hummer behind me. He didn't need my response either. Turning and walking away, suppressing the pain in my ankle, I stood up and limped closely behind him. His second-hand taxi was parked by the roadside. Seeing me sit in the passenger seat, he sneered, usually you complain my car is dirty. What's gotten into you today? In my past life, I got into graduate school and considered myself superior. To pave my future path, I often mingled in wealthy circles, having grown accustomed to high-end, spacious luxury cars and houses. How could I possibly take a poor guy like Qi Zholi seriously? In daily life, I'd nitpick and find fault with him whenever I was displeased. When he tried to hug me, I'd push him away, disgusted that he hadn't showered. When he cooked meals and served them to me, I'd angrily scold him for using too much salt, accusing him of trying to kill me with saltiness. He wanted to drive me to school, but I was disgusted that his car had been sat in by so many people. It was unclean and unhygienic. I was even afraid my wealthy classmates would see me getting out of a shabby taxi and look down on me, refusing to associate with me. Thinking about it now, my past self was utterly inhuman. I wish I could slap myself twice across the face. I deserve to die. 6. So Qi Zholi's sarcasm toward me was understandable. I plopped down and smiled obsequiously. Yes, must have taken the wrong medicine. Otherwise why would my boyfriend look even more handsome today? Boyfriend, Qi Zholi self-deprecatingly remarked. Then, stepping on the accelerator, the car sped off rapidly. I couldn't react in time, fumbling to grab the overhead handle, screaming in fright repeatedly. When we reached the entrance of his alley, I crouched by the roadside and vomited violently. Delicate, Qi Zholi stood right behind me, watching me with cold indifference. Then, seeing I'd recovered slightly, he tossed a bottle of mineral water into my arms. Keep up. I sprained my ankle and couldn't walk fast. He stopped on the second floor, frowning as he looked down. I was still slowly crawling up the third step. Meeting his gaze, I frantically waved my hands. I'm really not pretending. He lowered his dark eyes and came running down the steps with quick, light footsteps, bending down. He wrapped one arm around my legs and hoisted me straight onto his shoulders. I let out a surprised cry as he had already started climbing up. Without pausing for breath, he carried me straight up to the 6th floor before setting me down. Come in and take a look. Qi Zholi opened the door to his 30-square-meter rental apartment where he'd lived for many years. 7. The interior could be described as dirt poor, completely undecorated, with just a camp bed placed by the window, no kitchen. The toilet doesn't have a flush toilet, just a pit, for bathing. There's only a red bucket and an electric water heating rod. Actually, if you work diligently as a taxi driver, you can earn about 7,000 or 8,000 a month. After covering food and drink expenses, he could completely afford to buy a decent house with his saved-up money. But to support me, this money-burning burden, he endured all the hardships silently. Noticing my surprised expression, he smiled, not used to it, huh? After all, your dorm conditions from college to grad school were top tier. After starting college, apart from Qi Zholi visiting me at school, I hardly ever went to see him, let alone visited his rented place. Waves of bitterness welled up in my heart. Just as I was about to say something, he impatiently waved me off. Chen Yan, let's break up. I froze for a moment, then shamelessly clung to him. I won't. He laughed in frustration. Chen Yan, can't you give me some dignity? You've always looked down on me, despised me for being poor, for not being able to pave the way for your future. Now that you've graduated with a master's degree, aren't you just planning to kick me to the curb? So that's what he was worried about. His throat tightened. If I bring it up first, when I look back later, at least I won't feel like a coward. As he spoke, his eyes suddenly reddened, perhaps hating his own weakness. He roughly wiped away his tears. Get out. I never want to see you again. In the past, it was always the character's setting that confined me, making me a heartless villain. I stood in place, anxiously twisting my fingers, finally inching forward step by step. I pulled him into my embrace. I'm sorry, Chijoli, I didn't mean to. He instinctively pushed me away, and I lost my balance, falling painfully onto the floor, seeing my face contorted in pain. He quickly crouched down, his eyes urgently scanning my injuries. Where does it hurt? I didn't mean to. I'm sorry, Xiaoyan. His eyes turned bloodshot, filled with self-blame and helplessness. He carried me to the shabby sofa. Picking up the medicine box, he knelt before me and applied the medication. Hiss, alright, I'll be gentler. At my sound, Chijoli's expression tensed, and his movements became even more careful as he applied the medicine. In the end, he silently massaged my ankle, his expression complex and inscrutable. But I knew he was struggling internally over whether to give up on me. I withdrew my foot and placed my palm against his cold cheek. Chijoli, I'm sorry, truly sorry, for my past ignorance, rudeness, heartlessness, and shattered conscience. Perhaps my apology unleashed a flood of his pent-up grievances. He could no longer restrain himself and threw himself into my arms. Like a child robbed of candy, he burst into loud sobs. His crying broke my heart, and I comforted him with gentle words. Chijoli, I won't break up with you, not in this lifetime. Chijoli sobbed quietly against my chest, clutching my clothes tightly as a response. When his breathing steadied somewhat, I spoke again. Unless you stop loving me. What do you mean I don't know how to love you? You're truly heartless. Chijoli suddenly looked up, pinching the soft flesh at my waist, his phoenix eyes glistening with tears. At this moment, he looked almost like a male fox spirit, enchantingly fragile. Begging to be ravished, my gaze fell on his rosy lips, and I just wanted to kiss him to death, but I restrained my beastly urges, only gently caressing the damp corners of his eyes. There, don't cry. Somehow this action touched a nerve in his fragile state, and he started crying again, his voice trembling. Do you really promise you won't break up with me? I won't. Sigh. Men are made of water too, aren't they? I said it with utmost seriousness, afraid he wouldn't believe me. So I started taking off my clothes. He panicked and pressed down on my hand. What are you doing? Isn't this where you men get your sense of security from? I was also completely bewildered. Who said that? Chijoli frowned, pulling my clothes down with a stern expression. Don't you like my body? Chijoli paused abruptly, then scolded me loudly. Don't assume all men are that shallow. At least I'm not. He turned his face away with frankness, yet the tips of his ears quietly reddened. Then are you coming or not? I walked toward the bathroom while taking off my clothes. Chinyen, he rushed over, preemptively entering the bathroom and locked the door behind him. That night, he was exceptionally rough, as if trying to melt years of grievances into a tempest of passion. I was driven to unconsciousness, yet his strength never waned as he greedily nibbled at my earlobe. In a daze, I heard him say, "Consider this your punishment. Let's live well together from now on." 8. I spent several intimate days with Chijoli in the rental apartment before returning to school to pack my luggage. The dormitory was empty except for my belongings and Jing Xian's. I was pushing my luggage to the door when she suddenly called to show off. Chinyen, do me a favor and throw away all those things in my dorm. I frowned. Throw them away. She was pleased with my reaction, her tone cheerful. I've already joined yachting. The future is limitless. Those worthless things aren't worth keeping anyway. Yachting company. It seems the business card of Gu Jingqing that I threw in the trash was picked up by her. The direction of the plot has undergone earth-shaking changes with my awakening and rebirth. Jing Xian followed the path of my past life. She didn't become a film queen, nor did she become Gu Jingqing's wife, but ended up as his mistress. After all, the single Gu Jingqing never publicly announced that he was married or had a girlfriend. If you want to throw it away, do it yourself. I don't have time. Hearing my words, Jing Xian remained unconvinced. Chinyen, society and school are different. Don't be so unconventional. If you don't suffer losses, you'll never learn to bow your head. What do you mean? I clenched my phone tightly. You've offended teacher Lu Yuping. She has some influence in the industry after all. Those companies you were eyeing before, forget about them. They've already blacklisted you. I'm only telling you this out of our classmate bond. Don't say I never helped you. Well then, goodbye. And I hope you'll know what's best for yourself. Jing Xian hung up the phone with schadenfreude. After that, I kept hitting walls in my job search. Resumes I sent out sank without a trace, and when I finally reached the final interview stage, one phone call overturned all my previous efforts. During this period, Gu Jingqing took advantage of the situation and proposed an improper relationship in exchange for my career prospects. I firmly rejected him. Meanwhile, my classmates were happily joining companies they were satisfied with, so, under the scorching sun, dressed in a proper business suit, I stood at the foot of Tingyao's office building. Since they'd driven me to a dead end, why not go with the flow, licking blood off the blade, dancing with wolves? The highest authority at Tingyao, the company's CEO, is a middle-aged woman named Lu Feng. She was Gu Jingqing's first love, and the company was also jointly founded by them in their youth. However, Lu Feng far surpassed Gu Jingqing in both intelligence and courage. As I mentioned earlier, Gu Jingqing didn't like women being more capable than him, therefore, in the end, their relationship became worthless in the face of personal interests. The only thing keeping them working together now is mutual benefit. In the conference room, my resume was placed before Lu Feng. After lengthy questioning and explanations concluded, the short-haired and efficient Lu Feng crossed his hands on the desk, appearing completely at ease. Compared to other candidates, where do you think your strengths lie? A conventional question, if answered conventionally. It wouldn't be the style Lu Feng appreciates, because I'm the only female candidate among all the interviewees. As the words fell, all the male members present lowered their heads and laughed. Actually, I'm also gambling, betting that in this lifetime, Lu Feng will value me for my same-sex preference, just like in the previous life. Aside from my abilities, the sound of mocking laughter echoed shamelessly through the spacious room. Lu Feng forcefully knocked on the table. And only then did the surroundings return to silence. The executive sitting beside her spoke up. Go home and wait for news. This phrase means, unfortunately, you didn't pass. I was doused with a bucket of cold water. Though my heart was filled with unwillingness, I had tried my best. I politely bowed to these seniors and walked to the door. Haven't even started the job and already this reckless. My steps faltered as I realized those words were directed at me. Turning back, Lu Feng rarely showed a smile, nodding toward what I held in my hands. How can I conduct your onboarding evaluation without your resume? 9. The first joy was my successful onboarding at Tingyao. The second setback was Gu Jingqing learning about my brave venture into the devil's den, shamelessly transferring me from Lu Feng's team to his own, became an ordinary employee in his department, constantly under his control. He often used the excuse of needing female company for business meetings to take me to various drinking parties, where he would take advantage of me while drunk. Xing Xian was also in his department, and every time she saw me, she wore a confrontational and hostile expression. That day, I temporarily escaped from the drinking party and was drying my hands in the restroom. Xing Xian followed me there. She angrily yanked me off balance and raised her hand to slap me. My head snapped to the side, my cheek burning with pain. You shamelessly wormed your way into the company, and now you dare seduce Gu Jingqing right in front of me. Can't you stop being so cheap? My thumb lightly brushed the corner of my mouth, coming away stained with blood. I smiled. Who are you? I looked up at her. A lawfully wedded wife, or a publicly announced girlfriend? With each word, Xing Xian's expression grew darker, trembling with rage to the point her shoulders shook. Who is she? Just Gu Jingqing's shameful mistress. In my past life, I was as pitiful as her, but soon, she reverted to her usual acrimonious self. She approached me with a mischievous smile. I just saw your taxi driver boyfriend in the hotel lobby. Guess what he'd think if he saw his precious girlfriend dining with another man. Is Qi Zholi here? Shouldn't he be driving through the city streets right now? In the glittering golden corridor of the hotel, Gu Jingqing and his group were blocking the private room entrance, their faces full of flattery as they conversed with an Asian billionaire who frequently appeared in financial news, and behind the billionaire stood Qi Zholi, impeccably dressed in a suit. My head was spinning. Xing Xian affectionately linked arms with me as we walked over. She cooed in a sweet voice, Uncle Zhou. Uncle Zhou is the honorific title for that Asian tycoon. As soon as Qi Zholi looked up, he saw me and waved his hand toward me. Chen Yan, come here. I walked over slowly, and he took off his suit jacket to drape it over my shoulders. Aren't you cold wearing so little? I shook my head, half carried in his embrace. Xing Xian, fearing the world was too peaceful, seized the chance to stir up trouble. She's dressed so lightly because she's accompanying our President Gu for dinner, right, President Gu? She batted her false eyelashes and winked at Gu Jingqing. It seemed only then that Gu Jingqing noticed Qi Zholi standing behind the wealthiest man. His gaze wandered before he asked the tycoon in confusion, who is this gentleman to you? The billionaire kindly averted his gaze from me and introduced Qi Zhouli, my driver. Upon hearing this answer, Gu Jingqing immediately breathed a sigh of relief. In a place unseen by others, I poked Qi Zhouli's arm. "When did you become the richest man's driver? Why didn't you tell me?" Qi Zhouli lowered his head and gently touched the tip of my nose. "It happened today. I was just planning to tell you tonight when we got back." "I see. In my past life, Qi Zhouli remained a driver until his death, so I never doubted his identity." "Xiao Qi, since your girlfriend is here, I won't be the third wheel. I'll drive back myself tonight," the richest man said cheerfully to Qi Zhouli, after the crowd dispersed. Qi Zhouli released me, the smile fading from his face. He was angry. 10. He led me to the car and silently fastened my seatbelt. As he was about to pull away, I leaned forward and wrapped my arms around his neck. "I won't hide it from you. I did have dinner with him tonight, but there's a reason why I reluctantly accompanied him to that drinking gathering. As a woman, Lu Feng is also a shrewd businessperson. The company's shareholders and executives are almost all men who resent a woman giving them orders from above. Moreover, with Gu Jingqing deliberately courting their favor, Lu Feng might lose her high position in the next vote. I helped her get close to Gu Jingqing, figuring out who he was closely associated with and how much leverage he had to bring down Lu Feng. In return, she promised me a promotion and salary increase, provided I was capable. Qi Zhouli has shown me immense kindness, and I want to work hard to earn money to give him a home. With my past life, I should have had the ability of foresight, yet I've discovered that since rebirth, many trivial details from my past life have faded from my memory like melting snow. Perhaps this is the price of awakening. After all, I've already changed so much. This world has its established rules, they shouldn't be disrupted just because of me. Can you understand me?" After saying a long paragraph, I leaned over and kissed Qi Zhouli on the cheek. "Don't be angry anymore, okay?" The neon lights by the roadside, sliced by the half-lowered car window, fell on Qi Zhouli's face, gradually softening his sharp eyebrows and eyes. Qi Zhouli's gaze lingered on my lips, his warm fingertips gently brushing over them. "Who said I was getting angry over some insignificant person? Is he even worthy?" "Huh." My eyes widened in surprise. "What's that?" Qi Zhouli gave me a cold glare. Looking rather ill-tempered, suddenly, a kiss landed near my lips. He gently pecked at the wound at the corner of my mouth, his touch light as a feather. "I just think that even if you saw me after being bullied by others, you still wouldn't ask me to help you get revenge. So that's what he's angry about." I looked up, glimpsed the scar on my lips in the rearview mirror, and laughed. "It's just a tiny wound. Any later and it would have healed and disappeared completely." Qi Zhouli was amused by me, then spoke to me with great seriousness. "I won't interfere with your work, but you must promise me your safety." I opened my bag and, under the dim light, showed Qi Zhouli my secret weapons, pepper spray plus a folding fruit knife. "Before every drinking party, I take a cephalosporin pill. No one dares to pressure me into drinking, and even if Gu Jingqing tries to harass me, I have these as protection. Hurting him would at most count as self-defense." Qi Zhouli lowered his eyelids for a glance, then tightly pulled me into his embrace, murmuring indistinctly, "Now, I believe it." "Believe what?" Qi Zhouli fell silent, his scorching breath spraying against the nape of my neck, a tingling numbness. His chin rested on my shoulder for so long that I thought he had fallen asleep. I had pondered deeply. It seemed the script was missing two people, the male lead and the female lead. Later, I came to understand that when you are conscious and follow your heart, you are the protagonist of your own life, not dependent on anyone, not someone's background, nor anyone's tool. Everything depends on human effort. So, Qi Zhouli, we will be happy together, right? 11. Later, the proposal I worked on for a week brought the company millions in profit. Not only did I break free from Gu Jingqing's control, but I was also promoted to be the team leader of Project Group 1. While the leader of Project Group 2 is Jing Xian. As a result, I found myself on the opposite side of her, competing for the marketing and promotion of the product chain in the Shitsong mega project. If we achieve substantial benefits from this, the company will secure a higher position in the Fortune Global 500 rankings. Moreover, the outcome of this project is directly tied to next month's leadership reshuffle. In other words, next month will decide whether Lu Feng continues as CEO or Gu Jingqing takes over. Lu Feng told me that for this project, she and Gu Jingqing were fully involved in the follow-up. I represent him, while Jing Xian represents Gu Jingqing. My success means Lu Feng's success. Lu Feng and I gathered with our team, discussing all night how to persuade Shitsong to hand the project over to us. Shitsong came from Jingshi, with considerable scale, and the boss was an old man. We treated him to several meals, presented our proposal, and promised to promote his products worldwide, generating significant economic benefits, but the old man repeatedly evaded giving a clear answer, playing both sides between our two project teams. I don't understand what he's hesitating about. Later, I started with his wife, accompanying the wealthy lady shopping, carrying her bags and packages. After a tiring day, she finally agreed to give it a try for me, but the next day, when I arrived at the company, I was informed that Shitsung had signed the contract with Project Team 2. After winning a game against me, Jing Xian was glowing with joy. She said, "Once Gu Jingqing becomes the boss of Tingyao, I'll be the boss's wife, and then you can get lost wherever you please." Boss's wife, didn't see that coming, did you? Jing Xian glanced at me disdainfully, extending her garishly painted fingers, with a pigeon egg-sized super diamond ring adorning her ring finger. "Jingqing, he proposed to me." Jing Xian was so delighted she nearly split her lips, grinning from ear to ear. My head was throbbing, so I went to the pantry to pour myself a glass of water. Just as I was about to drink, the door behind me was deliberately closed, and a hand reeking of foul sweat covered my mouth and nose. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly turned around. I saw Gu Jingqing standing very close to me, sniffing the scent on me. "Chen Yen, I really like you, don't you know? If you come with me, I might consider letting you stay at the company." I suppressed the nausea churning in my stomach and stared at him warily. "Aren't you supposed to marry Jing Xian?" That was just to coax her. How else would she willingly work for me? "What did she do for you?" "My intuition tells me it's related to Shitsung." "Then you don't need to know." After saying that, Gu Jingqing reached out to touch me. I picked up the water glass and splashed it directly on his disgusting face. "Ugly toad, stay away from me." As I was leaving, Gu Jingqing said through gritted teeth, "Chen Yen, you'll regret this." "I never regret. Hard work won't betray me. Even if I leave Tingyao, I can still make a living outside, even if it's just a monthly salary of 3,000, because, even if it costs me my life, I will never let Qi Zholi down." 12. I went to Lu Feng's office, thinking she would at least show some sign of frustration, but she didn't. She, who always kept her head down reviewing data, was now surprisingly wearing headphones, eyes closed, enjoying the music. Firstly, I came to apologize to her for failing to live up to her expectations. Secondly, I came to submit my resignation. Lu Feng removed her headphones, her red lips curling slightly as she pushed my resignation letter back to me. "I don't understand." "Stay. Resigning can wait a little longer." She leaned back comfortably in her executive chair, eyes fixed on me. "Let's stay together to watch a good show. You'll understand afterwards." In the following days, Gu Jingqing was brimming with complacency, even throwing a celebratory party at the company. Employees who sided with Lu Feng were constantly disturbed. Every day after work, Gu Jingqing would arrogantly sit directly in Lu Feng's boss chair to handle business. Lu Feng didn't get angry either, just strolled around the company with his hands behind his back, watering the plants and playing with stray cats downstairs. Gu Jingqing even mocked her for going crazy. Before things were even finalized, Jing Xian had already announced it in her social circles and friend groups. She claimed she was about to marry into wealth, living in luxury, leaving the rat race behind, and even flaunted the diamond ring. In the comments section, Lu Yuping was the first to congratulate her, not forgetting to take a jab at me. "You're born with a silver spoon. Unlike some people who are short-sighted, treating a freeloader boyfriend like treasure." Jing Xian replied, "Thank you for your blessings, Teacher Lu. Without you, I wouldn't be where I am today. You must sit at the head table at my wedding. I can never repay your great kindness." The marketing agencies under the company worked around the clock to promote Shitsung's healthcare products under Gu Jingqing's orders. They vowed to cover the entire elderly district. However, when a tree stands out in the forest, the wind will surely break it. In the dead of winter, a massive wave of posts flooded the internet. They were the children of elderly people who had taken health supplements. Speaking indignantly before the cameras, they claimed that after consuming the supplements, their elderly parents suffered persistent high fevers and were even admitted to the ICU. Elderly people with weaker constitutions simply couldn't withstand such torment. Their hearts stopped beating on the way to the hospital. "It's a matter of life and death." Gu Jingqing urgently initiated damage control, removing posts in large quantities, yet similar posts kept emerging one after another, making it impossible to handle them all. Gu Jingqing and his crew were swamped with work. Watching the elderly man's agonized cries in the video made my heart clench tightly. I ran to find Lu Feng and confronted him. "You knew about this all along." Lu Feng was trimming the plants, which could be considered tacit approval. "But even if you want to bring them down, you can't sacrifice innocent lives. Those are living human lives." "So what?" After all my hard work building this company, those old fools actually want to kick me out. Lu Feng viciously threw the scissors at my feet, his eyes blazing with fury. All these years, for the company, I've even lost a kidney. Had my uterus removed. I've slaved away for this company, just because I'm a woman. The shareholders had the audacity to say I'm unfit for my position, and Gu Jingqing, stabbing me in the back, playing dirty tricks, doing everything he could to drag me down from my high position. Yet, damn it, I still loved him for so many years, flaunting other women in front of me. I tolerated it for so long. If he doesn't want me to have peace, I won't let him have it either. Lu Feng walked over and provocatively patted my cheek. Chen Yan, don't tell me you've never done anything wrong in your life. With a boom, my mind went completely blank. Clutching my phone, I walked out of the office building in a daze. Perhaps if I hadn't awakened, I'd be just as wicked as her. In my past life, I caused Qi Zhouli's death. What right do I have to judge her? I walked along the green belt, unaware that my feet were bleeding. Dark clouds turned overhead, brewing a torrential downpour as if to cleanse all the filth from this city. Chen Yan, someone shouted, their voice filled with urgency and concern. It's Qi Zhouli. Hundreds of meters away, Qi Zhouli in a white shirt came running towards me. Touching him, I melted into his embrace. I showed him the video, crying as I spoke. So many people died, so many. I should have trusted my instincts and investigated Shitsong's background earlier. But I didn't. Crying, I pounded my chest. It hurt so much. Qi Zhouli's face turned cold as he grabbed my flailing hands. Chen Yan, listen to me. This isn't your fault. If you could foresee the future, you would have stopped it. But you don't have that ability. Don't blame yourself too harshly. Foresight is something I don't possess, yet empathy grows ever stronger. Exhausted from crying, he drove me to a luxurious penthouse in an upscale neighborhood. He tucked me in, smoothed the blankets, knelt by the bed, and kissed my swollen eyelids. Be good now. Sleep well first, leave the rest to me. 13. Shitsong is a company from Jing City. With Jing City having a much broader market, why did they specifically come to F City, a second-tier city, to promote their products? The answer is self-evident. Shitsong used to be a legitimate company, but its elderly boss became obsessed with something he shouldn't have touched. What's shamelessly extravagant is that he actually spread this stuff within the company, claiming it could relieve work-related mental stress. The toxic practice of burning money and sanity, like a raging firework, instantly reduces the company to ashes, destroying everyone's hard work in an instant. The old fool remains unrepentant, producing counterfeit health supplements at low cost, coming all this way to this place just to make another huge profit. And yet, why wouldn't a major company like Tingyao notice the issues at Shitsong? That's because this project itself was something Lu Feng actively pursued out of malicious intent to retaliate against Gu Jingqing. No one would question what Lu Feng claimed to be good, and initially she put on airs to challenge Gu Jingqing. Gu Jingqing was desperate to climb to a high position. Blinded by greed, he deceived Xing Xian by promising her a wedding if she could handle the old man from Shitsong. He promised her a wedding, even if the means are not honorable. The obsession with becoming a wealthy wife drove Xing Xian to willingly sacrifice her own body. 14. The police came to the company and took Gu Jingqing, the main responsible party on the contract. For the first time, I heard the usually composed and confident Gu Jingqing let out an unbelievable, boar-like wail. When the police forcibly took him away, he lost control of his bladder, and dark yellow liquid trailed beneath the police car, muttering under his breath, I'm the CEO of Tingyao. I'll have my lawyers send you a cease and desist letter. Through this incident, the police followed the leads and discovered that he was not only evading taxes but also involved in financial crimes. Gu Jingqing is practically going to rot in jail. The company became public enemy number one for promoting shady products. Stocks plummeted as partner clients rushed to terminate contracts. Some projects faced massive penalty fees for delays and missed launch deadlines, demanded by competitors. On the day the company declared bankruptcy, Lu Feng ran frantically to the rooftop of the building. She leaped to her death, ending her life at the age of 45, pitiful and tragic. As for Xing Xian, her situation was equally grim. The old man touched that kind of stuff and often appeared in places of pleasure. He had no less than 3 if not 5 illnesses on his body. It said that night, the old man played quite wild, blindfolded her and turned off the lights. Xing Xian, unaware of the real situation, was taken advantage of in a daze, now afflicted with an unclean disease, lying on the hospital bed, unsure if it can be cured. I also heard that the richest man, Zhou Laogao, hired expensive foreign doctors to do everything possible to treat the elderly poisoned by those health products. I stood by the street, looking up at the scrolling news on the large screen, sighing deeply over this battle of human nature. Qi Zhoulian held my hand and swung it gently. "What are you thinking about?" I was wondering. "Is your surname Qi or Zhou?" I turned to look at the man before me, dressed in an expensive suit that perfectly accentuated his aloof and noble demeanor. The little girl passing by couldn't help stealing glances at him. "Qi is my mother's surname." "I see." Not happy, Qi Zhouli bends down and moves closer to me. "No, I feel like I've forgotten many things. For example." The voice suddenly pauses. An out-of-control car was careening wildly down the traffic lane. My pupils constricted as I almost instinctively pushed Qi Zhouli away, as I was sent flying by the impact. As my bones shattered, I finally remembered. For example, "Qi Zhouli, I still owe you a life. Wrongdoings will eventually be punished." Qi Zhouli side story, Chenyan never knew. On the day of the graduation ceremony, I sat in the taxi, smoking a whole pack of cigarettes. I don't understand why I had to be brought back to life when I was already dead. Coming back to life is one thing, but at least they could have erased my memories from the previous life. But they didn't. I knew she was just using me, exploiting me, step on me as a springboard to jump higher. I hated her to the core, but when I saw she was in danger, my body moved uncontrollably, rushing forward without hesitation. Even in death, I was confessing my love to this venomous woman, telling her to live well. I was thinking, I don't want to be love-struck in this lifetime. It's truly painful. Everything that followed was beyond my expectations. I originally intended to break up with her, but she threw herself at me saying she missed me, large eyes glistening with moisture, their corners flushed red, her entire face radiating affection. The defenses I'd carefully built crumbled in an instant. She's adept at deception. A consummate actress through and through. I told myself I mustn't be fooled by her. I spoke to her with cold words. She fell while running, and I restrained myself from feeling sorry for her. She squatted by the roadside vomiting, yet I just stood aside like a stranger, pretending to be indifferent. But she said she loved me, promised never to leave me, and held me in her arms, soothing me with tender words. She smelled so nice, and her words made me cry. I'm hopeless. I'm addicted to her kindness. I think I'll trust her one more time. Later, I noticed she changed dramatically. She earned the Tingyao offer through her own capabilities. Their relationship was like two hostile stray dogs baring teeth at each other by the roadside. At home, no matter how busy she was with work, she'd always call me first upon returning home to ask what I wanted for dinner. Ready to cook anything. Eating the meals she cooks is something I wouldn't have dared to dream of in my past life. Her cooking is truly delicious. 3 dishes and a soup, perfectly balanced for nutrition, after the meal. She even proactively takes on washing the dishes. Besides that, actively asks if I'm tired from work, playfully leans into my arms with a cheeky smile, poking at my chest. Don't work so hard, let me take care of you instead. Okay, she seemed like a completely different person, yet still clung to something like a bear when sleeping at night, letting out soft, silly breathing sounds that convinced me she was indeed Chen Yen. A thought occurred to her. Does she also know that I've been reborn? But why hasn't she been honest with me about it? Is she afraid of scaring me, just like I am, or is she worried about being mistaken for mentally ill? I decided to keep observing, until that day, when I followed my dad to a business meeting and happened to meet her. When I said I was my dad's driver, she believed it, because in my previous life, I was an orphan with only a middle school education, and drove a taxi until the day I died. Perhaps the heavens favor me. Having suffered so much in my past life, this lifetime keeps compensating me endlessly. The day I was reborn, large chunks of new memories flooded into my mind, cascading like a waterfall over my destitute life. I am Qi Zhouli, the youngest son of the wealthiest man, Zhou Lao, inheriting his father's intelligence. He started his business career at 16 by following his father into commerce. At the age of 20, I found my life dull and wanted to see the world beyond my social class. I wanted to understand the disparities in the world and experience the hardships of life, so I took up driving a taxi part-time, a small green car, rain or shine, shuttling through every corner of City F. I encountered all sorts of people and carried countless heartwarming stories. Disabled elders, children with dementia, single mothers. They will ask me, Master, is the meter fare expensive? Will 10 kilometers cost 10 yuan? I tap my hand on the steering wheel, smiling at them through the rearview mirror. Exactly 10 yuan, encountering Chen Yen, the same scene as in my past life. It was the day she took the college entrance exam. Time was running out, yet she sat in the passenger seat, steady as a mountain. I was even more anxious than her. The college entrance exam is the first major milestone in your life. How could you oversleep? Can't you take your life more seriously? She turned to look at me with youthful brows and eyes, a face pure as snow, and an unbelievably thin frame. Even her voice sounded weak and trembling. Sir, my parents died in a car accident yesterday. I stayed with them at the hospital all night. To this day, I'm still not sure what it was about her that attracted me. At first, I thought it was sympathy or pity. My parents sheltered me well. Very few people knew my true identity except those closest to me. I told her I was just an ordinary taxi driver who, having suffered from lack of education, wanted to support her schooling. She is very smart, a top student in science, and got into a prestigious university. If she hadn't been hit hard the night before the college entrance exam, I think she would have achieved even better results. That summer vacation, we often saw each other. We ate together, shopped together, and watched the sunrise together. Our thoughts often resonate with each other. When she shares her perspectives, I can quickly pick up and continue the conversation. She looked surprised, her mouth slightly open, revealing two adorable little canine teeth. Tell me, did you really never attend university? I gently tucked the frangipani into her hair and smiled. I distinctly remember the moment he threw me, whispering to me, "Before you on Dow." I concealed my true identity to keep others at a distance, but now, I lie again, fearing she might leave me. Once, I drove her to the seaside, and while waiting at a traffic light, a Panamera pulled up beside us. She looked over and stared for a long time, so I teased her, "Do you want to own one? My garage at home has all kinds of cars. If she liked it, I could give it to her." But she withdrew her gaze and shook her head. "I don't like it. I feel I can never get along with people from the upper class. The gap in life experience is too vast." At that moment, boundless panic welled up in my heart. In the end, that pure white jasmine of hers fell into a vat of colorful dye, becoming the very person she despised most. Two different memories cannot coexist in one lifetime. In the quiet flow of the river of time, only the memories of my current life remain in my mind. I don't remember my past life, only vaguely dreaming about it. Chin Yen broke up with me, and then I died an unnatural death because of her. I thought it was just a dream, when reality and dreams became intertwined and reversed. She pushed me away and died for me. I woke up with a start, so it turns out, we've been together for 2 lifetimes. Then may I dare to hope that we could have a 3rd lifetime together, without so many grievances, just an ordinary loving couple, chattering about daily necessities, reminding each other of life's basics. May we both be healthy and free from illness or calamity in our next life. Story 2. After the 9th failed attempt at in vitro fertilization, even the doctor advised me to give up. While I was hesitating whether to make one last effort, I accidentally overheard a conversation between my husband, Shen Mo, and his childhood friend, Shen Mo. Zhou Ying's uterus has reached its limit. Do you still not want her to give birth to your child this time? She doesn't deserve it. The more she wants to have a baby, the less I'll let her. This is the price she has to pay for driving Yaya away and forcing me to marry her. A chill ran through my body. It turned out that he had always believed that the reason Yaya broke up with him back then was because of me. He married me only to take revenge on me. Distraught, I got into a car accident while crossing the road. In the last moment before my death, I saw Shen Mo rushing over to save me, only to be hit and sent flying himself. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the time when he was defying his family for Zhou Siyue, penniless and living in a shabby rented apartment. Shen Mo, Mom and Dad, Yaya is the best woman in the world. You can't look down on her just because of her background. One day, I will definitely prove to you how wrong you are. Zhou Siyue, Uncle and Aunt. Although my background can't compare with Zhou Ying's, my love for Shen Mo is no less than hers. I don't expect you to accept me now, but I beg you not to be disappointed in Shen Mo because of me. Shen Mo, Yaya, stop talking, let's go. Shen's mother, Shen Mo, you will regret this. Ying is such a good girl, but you don't want her. Instead, you insist on this unseemly green tea. Shen's father, get out. I don't have a son as stupid as you. From now on, there will be no Shen Mo in the Shen family. The above conversation was so familiar that it made me feel dazed. Didn't I die? Why am I back on the day when Shen Mo brought Zhou Siyue in front of his parents, saying that he didn't want to fulfill the arranged marriage with me and instead wanted to marry Zhou Siyue? It was also on this day that, despite his parents' firm opposition, Shen Mo resolutely chose to sever ties with the Shen family, and Zhou Siyue also moved out of my house. The two started from scratch and lived a poor life. Yes, Zhou Siyue lived in my house, but she has no blood relation with me at all. She is just an adopted daughter of my family. When I was 6 years old, my parents, who didn't plan to have a second child, worried that I would be too lonely without siblings, so they took me to an orphanage and chose Jo Si-yue, who was the same age as me, and Jo Si-yuen, who was 3 years older than me, to come home with us. The reason why Shin's parents looked down on Jo Si-yue was not because of her background as Shin-mo claimed, it was because Jo Si-yue stabbed me in the back. Knowing that Shin-mo and I had a marriage contract and that I liked him, she still got together with him. What Shin's parents despised was Jo Si-yue's character. Shin's father's scolding of Shin-mo as stupid was actually too mild. Before this incident happened, not only the two sets of parents but also I didn't know that Shin-mo and Jo Si-yue had already been together. Now, in order to be together, they are willing to break with their families. On one side is Shin-mo, who was supposed to stand by my side and be my life partner. On the other side is Jo Si-yue, a sister whom I trusted with all my heart, closer than a blood-related sister. On this day in my previous life, I was betrayed twice, and it felt like the sky had fallen. I resented them. Since they were in love, why didn't they just tell me? Why did they have to embarrass me on the day when the two sets of parents were officially finalizing the marriage, even though I liked Shin-mo? I wasn't the type to cling to someone, I still knew how to fulfill others. But when I saw how hard they were struggling without the aureole of the Zhou and Shin families, I couldn't help but feel pity. Needless to say, my parents were furious. After raising such an ungrateful person as Jo Si-yue, they immediately removed her from our household register, announced to the public that she was no longer the adopted daughter of the Zhou family, and took back everything they had given her. Shin's parents, on the other hand, mainly wanted to force Shin-mo to yield to reality. They also spread the word to all business partners in the industry to put Shin-mo on the blacklist. Even all of Shin-mo's friends and classmates received warnings not to help him privately. Under such all-around suppression, as long as Shin-mo and Jo Si-yue stayed in the country, they would definitely not be able to find a proper job. They could only rely on part-time jobs, doing manual labor every day to earn a meager few dozen or 100 yuan to barely make ends meet. In less than a month, the two of them went from being bright and beautiful to being thin, haggard, and listless. During this period, Jo Si-yue contacted me privately several times. She cried and begged for my forgiveness, repeatedly saying that she was willing to step back and fulfill me and Shin-mo. She only begged me to ask both sets of parents to stop suppressing Shin-mo, and she was willing to do anything. She sent me many photos of Shin-mo, who could only carry cement at a construction site because he couldn't find a job. She said that Shin-mo was capable of starting his own company, and if it weren't for me, Shin-mo wouldn't have to suffer like this. She said that if being with me was the only way for Shin-mo to showcase his talents, she could make everything go back to the beginning. In short, she just wanted me to step in, persuade the two families to stop suppressing them, and accept them. Logically, I knew that they deserved to suffer, but emotionally, I couldn't harden my heart in the face of Jo Si-yue's repeated pleas. In the end, I secretly had someone pretend to be an investor to fund Shin-mo's startup. I thought that it was only a matter of time before they achieved their goal and won the recognition of Shin's parents. However, half a year later, when I accepted my parents' arrangement and agreed to marry Jo Si-yuen, who would move into the Zhou family, Jo Si-yue sent me a text message saying that she was sorry for me and asking me to accept Shin-mo again, and then she disappeared. The last information I could find was that a sum of money had been deposited into her account, and she had boarded a flight abroad. After Jo Si-yue left, Shin-mo seemed to have changed completely. He lost his previous recklessness and impulsiveness and became calm and patient. He took the initiative to return to the Shin family and apologized to his parents. He also told me that his relationship with Jo Si-yue before wasn't love, he was just rebelling against his parents' control. But during his time outside, he realized his feelings for me and began to pursue me persistently and propose to me, under his passionate pursuit and the help of Shin's parents. I naively thought that what he said was true, so, although my parents were dissatisfied with Shin-mo and opposed our marriage, because I liked him, they finally gave their consent. After marriage, Shin-mo fulfilled all the promises he made before marriage. He treated me wholeheartedly and gave me a great sense of security. He took care of everything related to me perfectly, and we never quarreled. He would create surprises for me on all major and minor festivals. He made me firmly believe that I was the woman he loved deeply and cherished. Everything in our married life was perfect, except that I still hadn't been able to get pregnant. Shin-mo and I went to the hospital for an examination. He was in good health, while I had polycystic ovaries, making it difficult to conceive naturally. In order to give birth to an heir for the two families, I started taking medicine to regulate my body. When I still couldn't get pregnant after taking medicine, I had to choose in vitro fertilization. The first IVF attempt was successful. When I got pregnant with my first baby, I was overjoyed and personally decorated the nursery, buying a lot of baby items. I also learned to sew clothes myself, hoping that my baby could wear clothes made by me after birth. I was eagerly looking forward to the baby's birth, but not long after my pregnancy became noticeable. The doctor told me that the baby had stopped developing. I couldn't accept the loss of my first baby and was so heartbroken that I cried for a week. It was only under Shinmo's careful care and gentle comfort that I gradually recovered from my grief. Shinmo repeatedly comforted me that as long as we tried hard, the lost baby would come back. Therefore, as soon as my body recovered, I arranged for a second IVF attempt. Just like the first time, I got pregnant smoothly, but also like the first time, the baby stopped developing not long after. After that, every time I got pregnant smoothly, but for various reasons, the baby stopped developing. No matter how much effort I made, no matter how carefully I stayed in bed from the moment I got pregnant to try to keep the baby, God still wouldn't fulfill my wish to have a child. Unexpectedly, it wasn't that God didn't want to fulfill my wish, it was clearly that Shinmo didn't want me to give birth. The person I thought loved me the most actually hated me to the core. I couldn't imagine that every time I was working hard to get pregnant and keep the baby, did he watch coldly from behind and laugh at my stupidity and poor judgment. If I hadn't accidentally overheard his conversation with his childhood friend, I would have continued to be kept in the dark. But I couldn't figure out that since he hated me so much, why did he risk his life to save me when I had a car accident? Since I couldn't figure it out, I simply stopped thinking about it. Anyway, now that I've seen Shinmo's true face, in this second chance at life, I won't make the same mistakes again. I left the Shin family with my parents and returned to the Zhou family. As soon as I entered the door, I saw Zhou Siyuan standing at the door waiting for us. Seeing him, my mother thought of Zhou Siyuan's betrayal and took out her anger on him. After raising you two for so many years, I end up with two ungrateful wretches. Zhou Siyuan is no good, and you're no better. You leave too. I don't want to see you in the Zhou family. I stared blankly at Zhou Siyuan, feeling as if I had traveled through time. Although he was the target of my mother's anger, his deep eyes were calm, and his face showed the familiar calmness and self-control. He was completely different from the furious appearance I saw the last time in my previous life. That time, after the third failed pregnancy, I became obsessed. Before my body had fully recovered, I insisted on having a fourth IVF attempt. When he heard the news and rushed to the Shin family, he was extremely angry. He blamed Shinmo for not taking good care of me and even hit Shinmo. That was the first time I saw Zhou Siyuan lose control of his emotions and get angry. At that time, he warned Shinmo that if he still couldn't take good care of me, as my brother, he wouldn't let him off. Afterwards, when my parents learned about this, instead of blaming Zhou Siyuan, they sided with him and criticized Shinmo. At that time, because of the pregnancy issue, my thoughts became very extreme. I desperately wanted to get pregnant and welcome the baby's birth. Anyone who tried to stop me was regarded as my enemy. I couldn't see the pain and concern in their eyes and only believed that their opposition was to go against me. I unilaterally regarded Zhou Siyuan as an enemy. Even my parents, I began to avoid seeing them. Later, after being recognized by my parents, Zhou Siyuan became the heir of the Zhou group. Even though he had the upper hand in business, he still repeatedly gave in to Shinmo, just hoping that Shinmo would treat me better. Even though he did so much, I still didn't want to see him. Thinking of these things, I felt deeply guilty towards Zhou Siyuan, the adopted brother I had always ignored, and towards my parents. Seeing that my mother was still angry and wanted to continue taking out her anger on Zhou Siyuan, I quickly interrupted. Mom, brother is different from Zhou Siyuan, don't drive him away. As soon as I said this, my parents and Zhou Siyuan all showed expressions of disbelief. I suddenly felt a little embarrassed. No wonder they were so surprised. In the past, I liked to hang out with Zhou Siyuan and always ignored the dull and uninteresting Zhou Siyuan even more. I had never called Zhou Siyuan brother and always called him by his name. Under their intense gaze, I could only clumsily change the subject. Mom and Dad, I've decided that I want to join the company. This statement caused another shock. Since I was a child, thanks to my parents' concept of raising me in a well-off environment, I never worried about money. My parents often said that they would always support me, and I only needed to be happy and do what I liked. Because of their unconditional love, I could easily get whatever I wanted since I was a child. As a result, I didn't have anything I particularly liked or any strong interests. After I graduated, my parents had suggested many times that I join the company, but I was only interested in having fun and refused them repeatedly. Gradually, my parents gave up the idea. This time I took the initiative to propose joining the company, so no wonder they were surprised, but soon, my parents quickly recovered. My father readily agreed, "It's good to join the company, it's good to be busy." My mother echoed, that's right, let your brother guide you. If you don't understand something, just ask him." Zhou Siyuan just nodded, okay, me. The decision to join the company wasn't a spur-of-the-moment idea. After the lessons of my previous life, in this second chance at life, I no longer want to let others control my destiny. After taking a shower, I lay in bed, trying hard to recall the events of my previous life and analyze the trends of business opportunities that could help the company's development. However, the more I thought about it, the more I hated myself for my past ignorance. Since marrying Shen Mo, I completely ignored everything else and devoted myself to him. I was so infatuated that I indulged in his lies and didn't care about the company at all. As a result, I couldn't remember many important projects that could expand the company. Just as I was feeling frustrated, my phone rang. I picked it up irritably and saw that it was a text message from Shen Mo. "I'm sorry." These 3 simple words left me stunned. In my previous life, Shen Mo severed ties with his family and cancelled our engagement for Zhou Siyue. From beginning to end, he never said a single word of apology to me. Yes, looking back carefully, even when Shen Mo pursued me again later, he only deceived me by saying that he had realized he loved me. He never said he regretted it, nor did he utter those 3 words, "I'm sorry." My hand holding the phone couldn't help but tremble. It wasn't out of fear, I was trembling with anger. Since I was able to be reborn, Shen Mo could have been reborn too. He must have been reborn as well. Is this apology meant for me from the previous life, or for me now? I shook my head and thought self-deprecatingly, does it really matter? Humph. Of course it doesn't matter. How much is his apology worth? Even if a despicable person is reborn, they remain despicable. It's good that we were both reborn. That way, I can settle the score with him thoroughly. My hands shaking with anger, I poked at the screen vigorously and typed out each word one by one. "I won't forgive you. Let's delete each other. Don't ever show up in front of me again." I hit send, then immediately deleted and blocked Shen Mo, and closed all ways of adding me. Even after doing all this, I still couldn't calm down. Thinking of the 9 babies who never got to see the world in my previous life, my heart felt blocked. I experienced the despair of looking forward to a baby's birth and then losing it 9 times. Shen Mo just watched my pain coldly. Those were his own flesh and blood too. How could he be so heartless? What's the use of an apology? I wish I could make Shen Mo pay with his life right now. Ying, what's wrong with you? It's okay. Don't hurt yourself like this. Zhou Siyuan's anxious voice came from beside my ear, and I was tightly hugged. I looked down at the strands of hair in my hand and realized that, just like in my previous life, I had unconsciously started pulling my hair when I lost control of my emotions. Under Zhou Siyuan's gentle soothing, I gradually calmed down in his arms. He carefully wiped away my tears and said, "Ying, if you really can't live without Shen Mo, I'll help you. Please don't hurt yourself." "Okay." I pushed him away, hiding my pain with a cold expression. "I don't want Shen Mo. What I want is to make sure he can never return to the Shen family, that he lives his whole life in poverty and misery. You'll help me, right?" My words made a flash of surprise cross Zhou Siyuan's eyes, but he quickly nodded without hesitation. "I'll help you with whatever you want to do." Even though he didn't understand why I hated Shen Mo so much, it didn't stop him from standing firmly by my side. Zhou Siyuan was a man of action. Before I even had a clue about how to make Shen Mo pay the price, in just one night, he came up with several plans for me to choose from. Taking the printed plans from his hand and looking at the dark circles under his eyes, I didn't need to guess to know that he had stayed up all night because of my words. My feelings were suddenly complicated. To be honest, I had never truly regarded Zhou Siyuan as my brother from the bottom of my heart. I only saw him as a tool my parents found to help me manage the family property. In name, he was an adopted son of our family, trained as an heir by my parents. He worked hard for the Zhou family and the company. On the surface, he seemed to have status and real power, but in fact, he didn't own any shares of the company, only having the right to manage it on behalf of the family. I couldn't understand how human nature could be so complex. Zhou Siyue and I used to be so close that we often shared the same bed and talked until dawn. We played together happily and shared our sorrows. She was a month younger than me, and I treated her like a real sister. She had everything I had. Whenever my parents bought me a gift, they would always get a pair, and she could get whatever she wanted just by asking. She had never been wronged in the Zhou family. So why did she betray me in the end and betrayed my parents' kindness in raising her? On the contrary, Zhou Siyuan, who had been ignored and treated coldly by me since he came to the Zhou family and was strictly treated and demanded by my parents, was completely loyal to the Zhou family, at least until my death in the previous life. Zhou Siyuan still stayed in the Zhou family without any second thoughts, helping me manage the company, taking care of my parents, and trying his best to repair the rift between me and my parents. Ying, Zhou Siyuan called out to me softly. I blinked, realizing that I had fallen into the memories of the previous life again. I quickly lowered my head to look at the plans Zhou Siyuan had made, trying to hide my unease. I knew that I had a psychological problem. I also knew clearly that seeing a psychologist wouldn't help. As long as the knot in my heart remained, I would never be able to get over it, so it was best to focus my energy on dealing with Shen Mo and resolve the issue quickly. Upon looking at the plans, I found that each one was more ruthless than the last. There was a plan to register a shell investment company, sign a gambling-like agreement with Shen Mo to invest in his startup, then plant business spies to obtain his supplier list, create a panic by faking a broken capital chain, bribe quality inspectors to issue defect reports so that his products couldn't be delivered smoothly, and make Shen Mo bear high debts when he lost the bet. There was a plan to sow discord between Shen Mo and Zhou Siyue, bribing a woman to have a relationship with Shen Mo and let Zhou Siyue find out. There was a plan to get Shen Mo addicted to gambling, destroying his will and ruining him from the root. The most ruthless one was to directly target the Shen group and bring it down from the source. Without his background, Shen Mo would naturally find it hard to rise again. After reading these, I had a new understanding of Zhou Siyuan. There were both open and covert methods, fair and underhanded strategies, but these methods would more or less soil our hands. It was clear that Zhou Siyuan had completely misunderstood my intentions. I didn't want Zhou Siyuan to get himself into trouble while dealing with Shen Mo. I shook my head. These methods won't work. Upon hearing this, as if afraid that I thought he was incompetent, Zhou Siyuan said eagerly and a bit dejectedly, then I'll think of new ones. He didn't even ask me what was wrong with them. If he were a hard-working contractor, then I would be the annoying client. I already had an idea and quickly refused. No need, I've thought of a way. Zhou Siyuan's face immediately fell. Seeing this, I quickly added, I'll join the company as your assistant. Can you teach me how to manage the company? Zhou Siyuan perked up immediately. Me, why hadn't I noticed before that Zhou Siyuan was so expressive? When I told Zhou Siyuan that I had thought of a way, I wasn't fooling him. I had really come up with a plan. In the previous life, Shen Mo wasn't given up by his parents. He was able to return to the Shen family just by saying he regretted it and apologizing. Wasn't it because he was the only son of the Shen family? And his parents couldn't really abandon him and hand over the huge family business to an outsider. But if Shen's parents had a second child, the situation would be different. My mother once told me that, just in case, they had frozen their sperm and eggs when they were young. As long as we made Shen's parents extremely disappointed in Shen Mo, they would be tempted to have a second child. As for how to make them disappointed in Shen Mo, it was even easier to do. Didn't Shen Mo love Zhou Siyue and think he couldn't live without her? In the previous life, no matter who gave Zhou Siyue a sum of money and helped her go abroad and disappear so that Shen Mo couldn't find her, in this life, I would make sure they were inseparable. Lost in my thoughts, I had breakfast at home with Zhou Siyuan and was about to go to the company in his car. As soon as we went out, we saw Shen Mo, who had been standing outside my villa for God knew how long. When I saw him, I stopped in my tracks, but Shen Mo stepped forward eagerly. Just as he was about to get close to me, Zhou Siyuan stepped in front of me. What are you doing here? Blocked by Zhou Siyuan, Shen Mo's face darkened, and he said impatiently, it's none of your business, this is between me and Ying. After saying that, he looked at me and asked matter-of-factly, Ying, why did you block me? I sneered, I didn't just block you. I also told you not to show up in front of me. What are you doing here? He didn't expect me to be so cold to him. His expression froze, and he became even more anxious. I have something to tell you. I know you're angry with me right now. I did hurt you, but I don't want our relationship to turn sour. Can you give me a chance to make it up to you? Did he even listen to what nonsense he was saying? How could a person be so shameless? He had the nerve to say it, and I felt embarrassed for him. Make it up, with what? Did he think that just because he was reborn and knew the future, he could act as if the harm he did to me in the previous life never happened and ask for my forgiveness under the pretext of making amends with a clear conscience? Fine, even if I forgave him, what would he do next? Where would he put me? Would he make me stand by and watch him be affectionate with Zhou Siyue? Or would he give up on the Zhou Siyue he loved so deeply? My gaze crossed him and landed on Zhou Siyue. who had come with him and was hiding behind the corner, half of her body showing. I asked him, "Aren't you worried that my sister will be jealous and misunderstand when you pester me and say these things?" I emphasized the word sister sarcastically. Shinemo said self-righteously, "Yeah, also feels guilty towards you, she'll understand me." I looked at Josue, whose expression turned jealous and angry after hearing his words, and sneered inwardly. "Then you two can spend the rest of your lives together, bound by your guilt towards me. As for your compensation, I don't need it, I'll say it again, I won't forgive you." After mocking Shinemo, I took the initiative to link my arm with Josue, who was still standing in front of Shinemo, vigilantly preventing him from getting close to me. Unlike my cold attitude towards Shinemo, I said gently to him, "Brother, let's go." Seeing my different treatment, Shinemo couldn't accept it. In the previous life and until yesterday, I had always been delicate and dependent on him. My temper was so good that even when I was angry with him, he could easily coax me happy with just a few words or a small gift. I had never lost my temper with him, nor had I ever said anything harsh to him. That's why he thought I would still be as easy to please as before, that he cooed me back with a few soft words and a gift. Now, seeing my obviously different attitude towards Josue, he panicked and stopped us again, preventing us from getting into the car. Pointing at Josue and looking at me, he said angrily, "Did he say something to you? That's why you're treating me like this." Inging, he's a despicable person, don't believe him. When I heard him speak ill of Josue, I couldn't help but slap him, interrupting his words. "Shut up, I won't allow you to talk about him like that," suddenly slapped in the face, instead of shutting up. Shinemo became even more excited. "Inging, you hit me for him, if you say one more bad word about him, I'll hit you again." My words made Shinmo's eyes go blank, as if he couldn't accept it. He muttered to himself, "No, it shouldn't be like this." I rolled my eyes. While he was stunned, I got into the car with Josue and left. As the car passed by Josue, our eyes met. Her expression was distorted, and her eyes were filled with hatred for me. I sneered at her. So she wasn't pretending to be affectionate as sisters anymore. Before the car reached the company, I received a message from Josue on WeChat. "Josue, he's mine, it must be the butterfly effect." In the previous life, Josue had never me like this from beginning to end. I deliberately provoked her back. "Before getting married, anyone has a chance. Josue, I won't let you have him." Was I being too suspicious? There was something strange about her words, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I didn't reply to Josue's message anymore and turned to look at Josue, who had been keeping his head down and was unusually silent since getting in the car. I was confused. "Brother, what's wrong?" I was getting more and more used to calling Josue brother. He wasn't used to it yet and didn't react immediately that I was calling him. After a long while, he looked up at me and denied it. "It's nothing, fine." Everyone has things they don't want to talk about. I wouldn't keep asking. If he didn't want to say, then he didn't have to. I lowered my head and started contacting the public relations department of the Jo group, not noticing that Josue was peeking at me. I asked the PR department to use the official account of the Jo group to directly announce the cancellation of my engagement with Shinemo. I had them clearly state the reason. Shinemo cheated on me with Josue, the adopted daughter of the Jo family. For the sake of true love, he was willing to sever ties with the Shin family and cancel the engagement with the real daughter of the Jo family. Before, because of my engagement with Shinemo, every time the Jo and Shin families had a joint project, the media would publicize the love story of the childhood sweethearts, the well-matched young master and young lady. So, there were many fans on the internet who shipped me and Shinemo. Now, I didn't want anyone to pair me with Shinemo anymore. I didn't leave them any dignity. As soon as this announcement came out, Shinemo and Josue's reputations were ruined. Even the resourceful netizens, through clues, found their alternate accounts and discovered that the two of them had been together for 2 years. The alternate accounts were filled with photos of their secret dates behind my back, or pictures of them secretly holding hands when the three of us went out together. Josue's alternate account flaunted her love openly as a mistress. Her signature read, "True love is not a sin, face your true feelings bravely for love." Before these posts were exposed by Mai and Shinmo's former CP fans, her remarks attracted many like-minded followers, under each post recording how she and Shinmo secretly loved each other behind my back. There were fans feeling sorry for her humble and hidden love and cheering her on, encouraging her to completely steal Shinemo away from me. Occasionally, some netizens with a normal sense of morality would stumble upon her posts and scold her, but they would be chased and scolded by Josue's fans. I watched all the notes posted on their alternate accounts like self-torture. and a chill ran through my heart. Before, Shinemo always said that it was disgusting for a man to show off his love, and only sissies would do such a thing, but on his alternate account, he secretly posted some mushy love words to match Jo Si-yue, who never showed her face. They used couple avatars, wore couple outfits, and shared the same ice cream. He would thoughtfully prepare warm baby pads for Jo Si-yue, learn to make birthday cakes for her, warm her feet with his belly, and create all kinds of small surprises for her. These were all things he had never done for me, but he did them all for Jo Si-yue. The bits and pieces in their alternate accounts made me, the legitimate fiancé, look even more ridiculous. Shin's mother also saw their alternate accounts. She had originally hoped for my engagement with Shinemo, but now she personally brought valuable gifts and came to my home with Shin's father to sincerely apologize for not raising her son well. My parents' expressions were also unpleasant. Since Shin's parents didn't raise their son well and Jo Si-yue was the adopted daughter of the Zhou family, it meant that our family didn't raise our daughter well either. My family didn't accept the valuable gifts brought by Shin's parents, but both sides knew clearly that my marriage with Shinemo was completely off the table, and no matter what happened in the future, it would be impossible. I blocked Shinmo's WeChat and mobile phone number. After their alternate accounts were exposed, he changed several new numbers and kept sending me messages, saying that he had hidden the truth from me before because he didn't want to hurt me. He asked me to meet him so that he could apologize and explain clearly in person. The truth was so obvious in front of me. What else was there to explain? Since Shinemo still had the energy to come after me, he must not be busy enough. I had to find something for him to do. When he and Jo Si-yue left the Shin family, although they didn't take their luggage, the watch on his hand and the jewelry on Jo Si-yue's body were all quite valuable. In the previous life, if they hadn't been extravagant at the beginning and still spent money recklessly after selling these items for some cash, they wouldn't have had a hard time later. In this new life, Shinemo would surely learn his lesson and might use this money as his first startup capital. I won't give him this chance. It won't be a problem to find someone to provoke and blackmail Shinemo and Jo Si-yue, making them lose a large amount of money in compensation. In a civilized and legal society, a slap from a stranger is quite costly. If you knock out someone's tooth, the compensation amount will start from 6 figures. If you have an argument with someone and accidentally push them, and they call the police, pretend to be sick in the hospital and claim to have a headache, then you have to pay for the compensation. So, impulsiveness is the devil. Shinemo hasn't experienced the hardships of society, and I'm helping him understand the social rules in advance so that he can integrate into the bottom-level life more quickly in the future. I have to say, I'm still too kind, because there were constantly people causing trouble for Shinemo. He couldn't spare the time to pester me after that day. I became Jo Si-yue's assistant and stayed by his side. Managing a company was much more difficult than I had imagined. There were endless things to do, documents to read, and meetings to attend every day from the moment I entered the company. It was truly a situation where one looked glamorous in public but was exhausted behind the scenes. In the company, Jo Si-yue turned back into the cold and workaholic person I remembered. He didn't hold back when teaching me, and correspondingly, he was also very businesslike and unforgiving. Even if it was me, if I made a mistake, I would still be criticized and have my salary deducted. He said that managing the group meant taking control of the futures of tens of thousands of employees, and we should be responsible for their futures. We couldn't treat it as a joke. We had to be extremely cautious when making any decisions because every decision was related to the future development of the group and couldn't afford to make mistakes. I understood the principles he said, but after just 1 week of work, my salary was all deducted, and now I'm actually paying to work. Jo Si-yue could read documents at a glance, but when I looked at them, I felt dizzy and my dyslexia would immediately kick in. I couldn't help but doubt myself. Was I really as stupid as a pig? Work was really too difficult. It was so difficult that I was working overtime every day to deal with it, and I even forgot about Shinmo, until Shinmo blocked me in the underground parking lot of the company. It had only been 2 months since we last met, and he was no longer the high-spirited, noble, and neat person he used to be. He was wearing a wrinkled t-shirt with unremovable oil stains on it. His skin had darkened several shades, and the exhaustion in his eyes couldn't be hidden. He stopped me, but he didn't speak for a long time. Instead, he stared at me intently, looking as if he had a lot going on in his mind. When my patience was running out and I was about to call someone to drive him away, he stammered, "Ying, long time no see." I had a cold expression and didn't want to waste any more words with him. I bypassed him and was about to open the car door and leave, but he blocked the car door and said urgently again, "Ying, don't go. I waited so hard to see you. This time, he didn't dare to look me in the eye. His hesitant appearance was like he was waiting for me to kindly give him an excuse so that he could continue speaking. I didn't need to guess to know that what he was going to say definitely wasn't what I wanted to hear. I crossed my arms and looked at him quietly, not speaking and not cooperating. The atmosphere was deadlocked. A look of embarrassment flashed across his face, and finally, he lowered his head. "Ying, you win, I can marry you, but I have one condition, you can't touch Yaya, and you can't force her to leave. If I marry you, she will definitely be wronged, I hope." Bang. Before Shinemo could finish what he hoped for, he was kicked several meters away, hitting the car next to him and sliding to the ground. This wasn't over. The person who hit him continued to rush forward, exuding a fierce aura. He dragged the stunned Shinemo up from the ground and punched him in the face one after another. Shinemo lost the opportunity to fight back and was completely unable to resist throughout the process. It wasn't until his face was covered in blood and it seemed that he was about to be seriously injured that I spoke up to stop it. "Brother, that's enough. Stop hitting him." Zhou Siyuan, whose mind was already occupied by anger, still didn't let go of the unconscious Shinemo. Only then did I notice that something was wrong with him. I quickly stepped forward and grabbed his hand, shouting loudly, "Brother, if you keep hitting him, he'll die." Zhou Siyuan's tone was full of coldness. "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing, he won't die." He also tried to push me aside and coaxed me in a tone like coax a child. "You wait for me over there for a while, it'll be over soon." The commotion here was so loud that it had already alarmed other people in the parking lot. Some people came to check what was going on, when they saw it was me and Zhou Siyuan, and then looked at Shinemo lying on the ground, whose life or death was unknown. Their faces changed drastically, before they could react. Zhou Siyue rushed out. She hugged Zhou Siyuan's arm and pitifully begged him with tears in her eyes, "Brother, I'm begging you, if you want to hit someone, hit me, don't hit him, let go, don't touch me." Zhou Siyuan was disgusted by Zhou Siyue's touch. Zhou Siyue was pushed away by Zhou Siyuan, but the next second, she clung to him again. While crying, she hugged him tightly, holding him even closer. It seemed that she was afraid that Zhou Siyuan would continue to hit Shinemo, but was it necessary to hug him so tightly? Moreover, she didn't even take a second look at Shinemo lying on the ground. A strange feeling flashed through my heart. I stepped forward, just as Zhou Siyuan was about to shake Zhou Siyue off with more force. I pulled her away from him one step ahead and even gave her a slap. Zhou Siyue covered her face, looking at me with disbelief and anger in her eyes. Her eyes were blazing with fire, as if questioning me why I hit her, in front of her. I insultingly patted the place on Zhou Siyuan that she had just hugged. "You should have some self-respect. Don't snatch everything. My brother only has me as his sister now. You have no connection with the Zhou family anymore." "Zhou Siyue, it's you who's snatching from me. Brother and I grew up together in the same orphanage. I'm his sister." Zhou Siyuan shook his head. "From the moment you let down Ying and the Zhou family, you've had nothing to do with me. I'm a member of the Zhou family, but you're not." Zhou Siyue was greatly shocked. "After all, I'm not as good as Zhou Ying in your heart. How can you be so heartless to me? We were the closest people to each other." But Zhou Siyuan ignored her outburst and continued to deal her a heavy blow. "You were never as good as Ying." What Zhou Siyuan said was fair, just, and objective, in terms of background, appearance, intelligence, and character. I believed that I was better than Zhou Siyue. Zhou Siyuan had better judgment than Shinemo. However, Zhou Siyue didn't agree with this statement. She pointed at me furiously. "You say I'm not as good as her. She's a useless person whose head is full of nothing but play, without her parents' support. In what way is she better than me? She's just a willful young lady who, relying on her parents' love, doesn't take anyone seriously. Do you really think that just because she calls you brother, she really treats you as a brother? Don't dream, she just wants to use you to make Shinemo jealous." Zhou Siyue was talking more and more absurdly. "Bullshit, brother, don't believe her. In my heart, I really treat you as my own brother. I have no intention of using you to make Shinemo jealous. Who does Shinemo think he is? In my heart, he's already a dead man." I almost swore to the heavens, afraid that Zhou Siyuan wouldn't believe me. As a result, Zhou Siyuan's expression became more and more ominous. On the contrary, Zhou Siyue seemed to have heard something very funny and suddenly burst into wild laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha, own brother." She couldn't stop laughing. "Me, are you crazy?" Zhou Siyue, "Ha ha ha ha, I'm crazy. And your own brother is also crazy. Do you know what your own brother wants is?" Zhou Siyue, "Shut up." Just when I thought Jo Siwoo would continue speaking despite Jo Siwoo's stop, she closed her mouth and didn't say anything more. She just looked back and forth between me and Jo Siwoo. That look was like she was watching a good show. I don't know who called the ambulance. The medical staff carried Shinemo onto the ambulance. Before leaving with the ambulance, Jo Siwoo said to me meaningfully, "The person you should hate is the one you regard as your own brother." Her inexplicable words made me instantly irritable. "I think you're really seriously ill." The ambulance had already driven away. Still angry, I looked at Jo Siwoo. What did she mean by that? Are you hiding something from me? Jo Siwoo stiffened all over when I asked him. I lied to my parents, saying that I had work to do with Jo Siwoo. As soon as I entered the door, without even eating, I forcefully pulled the silent Jo Siwoo all the way to the study and closed the door. I was determined to get to the bottom of things and wouldn't give up until I found out the truth. "Speak up, what have you been hiding from me?" Jo Siwoo's face was pale. Standing in front of me, he was a head taller than me, but he lowered his head and didn't dare to look at me. He remained silent for a long time, and no matter how you looked at it, it seemed like I was bullying him. I spoke again. "If you don't tell me, I can also ask Jo Siwoo." As I said that, I took out my phone in front of him, found Jo Siwoo's chat window on WeChat, and was about to send her a video call. Jo Siwoo reached out and took my phone away. Just as I was about to lose my temper, I heard him say, "There's no need to ask her. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I just thought it wasn't necessary to say it before, but I don't want you to hear these things from someone else even more." After saying that, he took a deep breath, as if he had made a very difficult decision. This time, he didn't avoid my gaze and looked directly at me. "Jo Siwoo is right. Both she and I are crazy. You treat me as your own brother, but I have feelings for you that I shouldn't have in my heart." "Me? Is that all?" My calmness seemed unreasonable to Jo Siwoo. He was shocked. "Don't you think I'm disgusting? We don't have any blood relationship." I was very calm. "Besides, if you want to blame someone, you should blame me for being too excellent. Which is why you couldn't help but fall in love with me." My confident words earned a nod of approval from Jo Siwoo. He looked at me, and I looked at him. We were both waiting for the other to change the subject first. In fact, I was just pretending to be calm on the surface. Inside, I was already screaming, but I couldn't show it. Otherwise, with Jo Siwoo's sensitivity, he would surely think that I was disgusted by him. In the previous life, I did agree to marry Jo Siwoo under the matchmaking of my parents, but at that time, I was still immersed in the betrayal of Shinemo and Jo Siwoo, and my parents were heartbroken when they saw it. They didn't know where they heard the saying that if you want to forget a relationship, you should start a new one. They actively encouraged me to move on and look at the whole forest instead of hang herself from the tree of Shinemo. I didn't want to worry my parents, so I forced myself to get to know the young talents they mentioned. Jo Siwoo noticed my unhappiness and specially held a family meeting with my parents. He asked my parents not to put so much pressure on me and solemnly promised them that even if I didn't get married for the rest of my life, after they passed away, as my brother, he would take good care of me. His words were a bit rough, and my parents' faces darkened a bit when they heard them. As a result, he took out a lifetime employment contract and promised to stay in the Zhou group and work for the Zhou family for the rest of his life and not start his own business. If he breached the contract, all his income after leaving the Zhou group would also be transferred to my name unconditionally as compensation. This was a closed loop. He had already signed the contract, and his attitude was very clear. My parents were stunned. They were touched by Jo Siwoo's dedication to the Zhou family. Although they had raised an ungrateful person like Jo Siwoo, they still had Jo Siwoo, who was grateful and loyal. Of course, they didn't accept the contract, but they also listened to Jo Siwoo's decision and stopped forcing me. I watched the whole process. At that time, on a whim, looking at Jo Siwoo, who was being praised by my parents, with a rebellious attitude, I stood up and said that Jo Siwoo talked a good talk. Just like Jo Siwoo always said nice things to please people. But in the end, she still showed her true colors. I shouted that I would never believe him again, unless he married me and moved into the Zhou family, becoming a real member of the Zhou family. Then, when my parents heard this, their eyes lit up, and they smiled happily, saying yes repeatedly. Just like that, the marriage between me and Jo Siwoo was decided in a rather dramatic way. If Jo Siwoo hadn't suddenly gone abroad and made it impossible for Shinemo to find her, and if Shinemo hadn't thought that I had forced her away and come back to pursue me again, and if I hadn't been so foolish as to reconcile with Shinemo, then Jo Siwoo and I might have really changed from siblings to husband and wife. However, from beginning to end, I thought that Zhou Siyuan was treating me well and agreeing to move into my family because he had deep feelings for the Zhou family. When we went to the orphanage to adopt him, the director said that not long after Zhou Siyuan was born, his parents died in a car accident. His relatives all thought that he was a jinx, and no one was willing to raise him, so they abandoned him in the orphanage. Although Chinese people say they believe in science, sometimes they are contradictory and believe in such things. After hearing that Zhou Siyuan was a bad luck to his parents, they didn't want to adopt him. Zhou Siyue was 3 years younger than Zhou Siyuan and was also abandoned at the gate of the orphanage not long after she was born. In the orphanage, the older children had to take on the responsibility of taking care of the younger siblings. Zhou Siyue was essentially raised by Zhou Siyuan, and they had a deep relationship. When we went to the orphanage to adopt a child, Zhou Siyue was well taken care of by Zhou Siyuan. Her clothes were neat, her little face was clean, and her braids were beautifully done. Among the group of messy children, Zhou Siyue stood out. Moreover, she had a sweet mouth. While the other children were timid and didn't dare to approach me, she was enthusiastic and proactive. She got familiar with me after just a few words, and we started playing together quickly, so I proposed to take her as my sister. However, Zhou Siyue's reaction wasn't as happy as I had imagined. She didn't agree immediately. Only after I pressed her did I find out that she didn't want to be separated from Zhou Siyuan. When my parents saw Zhou Siyuan, they thought he was good-looking. After asking, they found out that he also had excellent academic performance. At my request, Zhou Siyuan and Zhou Siyue were adopted together. Logically speaking, Zhou Siyuan and Zhou Siyue should have a deeper relationship than I do with either of them. It was only then that I realized that what Zhou Siyuan had just said was that both he and Zhou Siyue were sick. Given that Zhou Siyuan regarded his feelings for me as sick, then what about Zhou Siyue? I voiced the doubt in my heart. Zhou Siyuan was silent for a long time before he finally opened his mouth with difficulty. 2 years ago, Siyue confessed her feelings to me. So after all this, Zhou Siyue couldn't get Zhou Siyuan, and then she found out that Zhou Siyuan liked me. So she wanted me to taste the pain of a broken heart too. That's why she stole Shinemo from me. It turned out that the source of all this was Zhou Siyuan, although it's true that what can be stolen isn't worth clinging to. After learning this melodramatic truth, I still took my anger out on Zhou Siyuan. Yes, I just wanted to take my anger out on him. After ignoring Zhou Siyuan for several days in a row, my parents finally dully noticed that the atmosphere between us was off. One night, my mother specifically came to my room and said that she hadn't slept with me for a long time, and she wanted to have a heart-to-heart talk with me all night. Her way of trying to get information out of me was really clumsy. After just a few words, she abruptly shifted the topic to Zhou Siyuan. Seeing how worried she was about me, I directly told her the reason for my Cold War with Zhou Siyuan. After hearing this, my mother was so angry that she opened a bottle of wine and said she wanted to scold Zhou Siyue while drinking. I knew that she had actually been hurt by Zhou Siyue too. Just as I regarded Zhou Siyue as my real sister, my mother also regarded Zhou Siyue as her real daughter. Although we can scold her, Mom still has to say something fair for Siyuan. This isn't his fault. He can't control matters of the heart. Siyue likes him. He likes you, and you liked Shinemo. Stop, I don't like Shinemo now. Don't talk nonsense. Okay, then do you like Siyuan? Old ginger is spicier. Experience makes one more skillful. I was left speechless by my mother's question. My mother looked at me with a knowing smile. Hesitating means you're a little attracted, but not to the extent of liking yet. My mother had an expression that said, "You don't need to say more, I understand everything," and continued, "Mom is an experienced person. You two are in the ambiguous stage, right?" Blushing, I pushed my mother out of my room to stop her from saying more nonsense. Just after my mother left, the door was knocked again. I opened the door, and Zhou Siyuan was standing outside holding a cup of honey water. "Mom asked me to bring you this honey water." I put my hand on my forehead. My mother really couldn't wait to stir up trouble. I took the honey water from Zhou Siyuan, thanked him, and was about to close the door. But I didn't succeed. His hand blocked the door. "Me. Do you have something else to say?" He nodded. "Yes, I want to say that if you don't want to see me, I can move out of here." I raised my eyebrows and deliberately asked, "What about the company? Won't you go there either?" His expression froze for a moment, and then he said, "It's okay. For work arrangements, I can work from home, and Secretary Chen can teach you the operations in the company." He really made arrangements. It seemed that if I didn't make things clear today, he really intended to make me feel at ease by not seeing him. I drank the honey water in one gulp, calmed down my emotions, and then said, "It's not that I don't want to see you. I'm thinking about how to deal with our relationship, Zhou Siyuan. There's no need to deal with it. We can just be like before. Nothing has changed. Me, I didn't expect you to be the kind of person who runs away from problems. Or is your love really that unmentionable? Zhou Siyuan became excited. Of course not. I just don't want to make you feel awkward. Me, you haven't made any expressions of your feelings, nor have you taken any actions. How can you be sure that I'm feeling awkward instead of happy? Zhou Siyuan looked a bit stunned. What do you mean? I gave him a reproachful look. It means that you should bravely pursue me. Let me tell you, I'm very hard to chase now. If you can't make me feel that I can't live without you, you'll just have to be my admirer for the rest of your life. Think carefully before you pursue me. After saying that, regardless of what Zhou Siyuan thought, I closed the door with a bang. I covered my burning face, feeling embarrassed about my words just now that sounded like those of a heartless woman. But it's better to get the unpleasant things out in the open. Whether to pursue me or not is his choice. After experiencing Shen Mo, the ultimate scumbag, I know that it will be very difficult for me to trust other men in the future. But Zhou Siyuan is different. In the previous life, he was good to me and wholeheartedly took care of the Zhou family. In this life, I'm willing to believe that he will be the same as in the previous life. However, since I have a second chance at life, I don't want to get lost again in others' kindness to me and then plunge in headfirst and be unable to get out. It's best to be in control of my own destiny. After talking things through with Zhou Siyuan, he didn't seem to become much more enlightened. Our relationship returned to the state before the Cold War, and then it stopped there. Zhou Siyuan and I still go to and from work together every day. If I make mistakes or cause problems in the company, I will still be stared at coldly by him and asked, "Do you have water in your head to make such a lower mistake?" Then he will add, "Your salary and bonus will be deducted." I'm already working and paying out of my own pocket, so what else can he deduct? Even when I get home, I can't get away from work. Zhou Siyuan and I each have a desk in the study, facing each other, and we do our own things. The only thing better than in the company is that at home he won't have a cold expression. When I ask him about things I don't understand, he will explain them to me very patiently. My parents have seen my progress and are very pleased. They finally have the sense of accomplishment of our daughter has grown up. In the past, their catchphrase to me was, "Don't always think about having fun, find something serious to do." Now their catchphrase to me is, "Don't always be busy with work, go out and have fun to balance work and rest." Well, this weekend, both Zhou Siyuan and I were driven out of the house by our parents and told to go out and have fun. The intention of matchmaking is just too obvious. Zhou Siyuan and I looked at each other. Since we were already out, we decided to find a place to have fun. Speaking of having fun, I haven't ridden a horse for a long time, and I haven't seen my precious Mianhua for a long time. My Mianhua is a pure white horse, and it's extremely gentle. Zhou Siyuan also has a pure black horse named Moyun. When the two horses were let out, they affectionately rubbed against each other and couldn't be pulled apart. Zhou Siyuan and we underestimated it. The pets got into a relationship before their owners, so Zhou Siyuan and I each led a horse and walked slowly. We met an acquaintance head-on. Strictly speaking, this is Shen Mo's friend named Gu Huai, who is also a rich second-generation young master. As soon as he saw me, he frowned and asked bluntly, "Are you really done with Shen Mo?" I gave him an unkind look. "What do you think?" Gu Huai scratched his head and softened his tone. "Oh, I didn't mean to blame you. Have you heard? Aunt Shen is pregnant. Since your engagement with Shen Mo is off, he might really be given up by Uncle Shen and Aunt Shen this time." I already knew this, but I pretended to be very surprised. I haven't been idle these past few months. Shen Mo was penniless. Instead of following the old path of the previous life and working as a laborer, he took a risk and borrowed from loan sharks. He thought that with his knowledge of the future, his investment and entrepreneurship would definitely succeed. His thinking was still stuck in the achievements he had made in his high position in the previous life. He didn't consider that when borrowing from loan sharks without any collateral, he could at most borrow a few 100,000 yuan, and the projects he wanted to engage in required hundreds of millions of yuan. When he went to talk about cooperation with just a few 100,000 yuan, people would only laugh at him for being unrealistic and send him away directly. I sent people to follow him. Whenever he was going to talk about a project, I would intercept it. I don't have the memory of those profitable projects from the previous life, so I simply followed behind Shen Mo and took advantage of the opportunities he missed. It was really successful every time. Shen Mo wasn't without the thought of seeking help from his rich second-generation friends, such as Gu Huai in front of us. But the rich second generation are under the control of the rich first generation. My parents had already spread the word that whoever cooperated with Shin Mo, the Zhou group would target them, and Shin Mo's parents didn't express any opinion on this statement from my parents, which meant they didn't want to interfere. Shin Mo's parents intended to test Shin Mo's ability. After all, it was very dangerous to hand over a large group to an impulsive person driven by love. If this person driven by love didn't have the ability to solve problems, it would be more practical to quickly train a new account, have a second child. Unfortunately, after being intercepted by me several times, Shin Mo, after several months, had nothing to show for it except for the mounting debts with compound interest. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come to me last time and said that ridiculous thing about being willing to marry me. He really deserved to be severely beaten by Zhou Siyuan. Did he think he was an emperor in the feudal era? He thought that marrying me was a favor he was bestowing on me. It's really laughable. It was after learning about this incident that Shin Mo's parents made up their minds to train a new account, have a second child. Gu Huai didn't get any useful information from me. On the contrary, I got a lot of the latest news about Shin Mo from him. Shin Mo was being chased by loan sharks to repay the money, and he couldn't pay it back. The people from the loan sharks saw that Zhou Siyue was somewhat good-looking and wanted to take her to pay off the debt. Shin Mo fought with them and ended up having 2 of his legs broken. When talking about this, Gu Huai's tone was angry because Zhou Siyue, this woman, left Shin Mo in the hospital and ran away. The hospital had no choice but to contact Shin Mo's parents. After all, he was their biological son, and they couldn't just watch him die. They found the best orthopedic expert to treat Shin Mo's legs and also helped him pay off the loan from the loan sharks. Up to this point, if Shin Mo had acted pitifully and begged for mercy from his parents like he did in the previous life, he could still have returned to the Shin family, but for some reason, Shin Mo, upon learning that his mother was pregnant with a second child, actually threatened his mother to abort the second child by refusing to cooperate with the treatment. His mother, who had been a bit soft-hearted towards him, was so angry that she didn't care about his life or death anymore. Anyway, it wasn't her legs that were broken. Whether he wanted to be treated or not was up to him. His father was also extremely disappointed in him. Such a confused son wasn't worth keeping. Well, now Shin Mo couldn't return to the Shin family, and Zhou Siyue was nowhere to be found. I didn't want him to misunderstand that I had forced Zhou Siyue away again. So I spent some effort to find Zhou Siyue. Fortunately, in this life, no one gave her money and sent her abroad. She was still in the country, just in a different city, and she was doing quite well. It seemed that she didn't have much true love for Shin Mo either. She had hidden a lot of Keisto. She was really good at making plans for herself. She had saved a lot of money during her years in the Zhou family. And my parents didn't take it back. When Shin Mo was in urgent need of money, she didn't take it out for him to use. I decided to be a good person to the end. I called a same-city delivery service and sent Zhou Siyue's whereabouts and bank statements to Shin Mo. Later, I heard that Shin Mo refused to leave Zhou Siyue's place and forced her to take out money for his entrepreneurship. Zhou Siyue had no choice but to give him money several times, but each time it was a complete loss. After several times, she couldn't afford to keep giving money to Shin Mo like this, and no matter what he said, she refused to take out any more money. After several failed attempts at entrepreneurship, Shin Mo's arrogance was turned into self-abasement. He drank alcohol at home all day long, and when he was drunk, he would beat the Zhou Siyue he claimed to love deeply. Zhou Siyue called the police, and when the police came, they said it was a marital conflict. They gave Shin Mo a lecture and considered it settled. Yes, the 2 of them got married. They got married the first time Shin Mo convinced Zhou Siyue to take out money for his entrepreneurship. The 2 of them really had a gambler's mentality. Zhou Siyue was gambling that Shin Mo could succeed in his entrepreneurship. The promises Shin Mo made to her were so attractive that only by becoming husband and wife could she have a share of the money Shin Mo would earn in the future. Shin Mo was gambling that he and Zhou Siyue would definitely be happy. Everyone said that he was blind and couldn't distinguish between good and bad. He wanted to prove to me that it was my loss to have missed him. Shin's father, get out. I don't have a son as stupid as you. From now on, there will be no Shin Mo in the Shin family. He once said that with just one word from me, he could immediately abandon Zhou Siyue and come back to marry me. I was so scared that I didn't dare to send any words of provocation, sarcasm, or blessing to him, for fear that he would misunderstand that I wanted him to change his mind and marry me. Later, until I was recognized by my parents and the board of directors and officially took over the Zhou group, I didn't hear any news about these 2 people. By then, Shin Mo's younger brother, Shin Zhao, was already 3 years old and old enough to go to kindergarten. Our Zhou and Shen families still had interactions. Shen Zhao didn't resemble Shen Mo. Shen Mo took after his father, while Shen Zhao resembled his mother more. He was extremely cute, and I took a liking to him at first sight. As a result, I often visited the Shen family. The rift between the two families caused by Shen Mo was gradually mended by little Shen Zhao. Today was the day Shen Zhao started kindergarten, and as his honorary sister, I came along to see him off. Zhou Siyuan accompanied me. Seeing how